The Liberty Bowl officials told us this morning they can't find a suitable team to play Boston College. Now, the Bowl is awaiting a Notre Dame team meeting to vote on the issue at 2 p.m. Reportedly, quarterback Blair Keel is opposed to going to any bowl. Meanwhile, the NFL today has learned that Arizona State is waiting in the wings to replace the Fighting Irish in the Liberty Bowl. Now, of course, a key game today for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the man waiting in the wings in Shreveport, Louisiana, is their injured and disabled quarterback, Terry Bradshaw. Terry, the question everyone wants to know, will you play football again this season?
Brent, I don't think I'll play this year. If I could just come back and be in some role in case something happened to Cliff or Mark, then that would be the only way I would play is if those two were injured. But as far as me playing, no.
Terry, why are you down in Shreveport and not with the Pittsburgh Steelers on the sidelines?
Well, I'm down here going to a clinic for acupuncture on my elbow. The operation part is fine. That's healed, the thing that's kept me out all year, but I have what is really tendonitis on the outside, the triceps, the tendons leading to the elbow, and waiting around 3 weeks to get well hasn't done me any good. There's one move left for the Steelers to make, and I told Chuck it's senseless to wait on me when you could use it for someone that can help the football team. Let me go try this. If I can come back and throw and be a part of the team and could help, then that's fine. If I can't, then go ahead and put me on injured reserves and bring somebody else up.
I'm surprised that Chuck Noll isn't counting on your play calling experience up there in the booth now as the Steelers go down the stretch.
Well, they're 9-2 without my play calling. I say that's, you know, they really don't need it now. I would have liked to have helped out earlier, but I really haven't been asked to help, and so I've just kind of stayed out of the way of everything and watched them have one of their great seasons with their defense playing so well and you know, kind of struggle through it, but they're playing well without my play calling.
Terry, is there any bitterness on your part toward Chuck's comments now during the season?
Well, I'd be lying to you, Brent, if I said there wasn't some bitterness. Really a lack of understanding. I don't know why he made those comments, and I think probably the only person knows is Chuck. I would like to think I know him better and that those remarks aren't meant as such, but no one really knows because he never really has answered the reason why. So without that, I just try to get well. That's all I can do.
Terry, is there any possibility that you would ask the Steelers to trade you prior to next season?
Well, I would only ask to be traded if I thought they didn't want me. Right now, that's not an indication at all. I'm no good to anyone unless I can play. Now, if I can play next year, and I absolutely believe I will, and then I think I can solve the problem. But if something else arrives and they're settled in with Cliff and Mark, and I'm going to a third string role, then yes, there would be a trade, but those are just hypothetical situations. I have to get well, number one, Brent, go out and compete and show them that I can still play football the way I used to. If I can do that, then everything will take care of itself.
All right, Terry, good luck.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, Terry Bradshaw's still going to be a winner, regardless of who he finally plays with. I think he'll be back with the Steelers. But there is another controversy involving the New York Jets.
Real hot one, too, Brent. You know, the Jets cut their leading rusher this week, Dwayne Crutchfield. Now, Coach Joe Walton said his performance was not up to par, but a lot of people didn't buy that explanation.
When the Jets star running back Freeman McNeil was injured against the Rams earlier this season, Crutchfield moved center stage. He was a steady, though unspectacular runner, but he was good enough to rush for 571 yards. But even then, there were reports that he had failed to impress his coach, Joe Walton. One reason, he couldn't block.
Dwayne hadn't progressed in the areas that we had hoped he would in order to be a good running back for the New York Jets, and he's not in our future plans, so we let him go.
I think the whole team was surprised, but evidently it was something that had to be done, and I just hope that that something good can come out of it for Dwayne and for the Jets.
After last week's loss to Buffalo, their 7th of the season, Walton decided to make an example of Crutchfield to the rest of the team.
I wasn't particularly looking to give any message. I think most of my players know where I'm coming from and what our program's going to be here in the future, and I really don't think that they needed a message.
Herb, have you heard anything about this?
I want to emphasize, Brent, that there was nothing off the field that had anything to do with that decision. Crutchfield was cut because he wasn't playing up to par, and Walton made the move.
Jimmy, have you heard anything beyond that?
I'll tell you, there are two things that can happen. he was cut maybe that Houston could pick him up on waivers because it happened. Then later Houston would pay them something for it. But truthfully and honestly, I think they had to make room for Abdul Salam. I mean, let's face it.
All right, and we're going to come back with the Greeks Corner, see who he likes today, with the NFL Today continues on CBS in just a moment.
If you're a smoker, inside this little can is a legitimate alternative. Introducing Skoal Bandits, an individual portion of wintergreen flavored tobacco in a neat, pre-moistened pouch. What you do is put one between your lip and gum. What you get is great tobacco taste without lighting up, and you can enjoy it wherever you are. If you're a smoker, try new Skoal Bandits. 20 pouches to a can. Take a pouch instead of a puff.
When you're looking for quality products at extra special prices, look no further than True Value Hardware Store's Hardware Value of the Month. In November, get this multi-outlet center for just $8.88. It converts one outlet into 6 safely and economically, and has a circuit breaker that interrupts the current if an overload occurs. You can get this multi-outlet center for only $8.88 while supplies last, wherever you see the November Hardware Value of the Month banner at participating True Value Hardware Stores and home centers.
Introducing the 1984 Volkswagen Jetta. It doesn't drive like a car. The Jetta has a German-built engine, German-built suspension, and the performance of a true German sports sedan. Yet, the Jetta costs only $7,390. You drive a car because you have to. You drive a Jetta because you love to. Jetta. It's not a car. It's a Volkswagen.
The Greek and I came up a little short trying to find $60 million to buy the Dallas Cowboys. But, Jimmy, I understand you found a possible buyer in Miami?
Clint Murchison made this request with Tex Schramm, who's supposed to find the buyer. He must be very rich, very low-key, and preferably a Texan. Well, we've found that man except for one thing. That's George Barber of Miami, who, by the way, is ready to build a stadium for Robbie and the Dolphins, so you know he's got plenty of money. He's got 3 jets. But there's only one problem with George. He wants the team without any strings, and he's not a Texan.
Oh, Jimmy, Minnesota and Pittsburgh, why is Chuck Noll down on injured Terry Bradshaw?
Because they asked him not to have the operation, and Terry went into the hospital and had it anyway under an assumed name.
All right. Now, what about the Pittsburgh Steelers today against Minnesota? The Vikes are really at a slide.
There's no question about it. But, you know, Bud Grant made the greatest statement. It says, it doesn't matter who you play but when, referring, of course, to the fact that he's lost Kramer and Brown and he's playing Pittsburgh with a lot of injuries. I like the Steelers because Stout has been doing very well.
Detroit and Green Bay, the Packers back alive.
Hey, would you believe this, that Detroit has beaten the Packers 6 out of the last 7 times. For some reason or other, they have something on the Packers. What it is, I think it's the front defensive board give Dickey a lot of problems. Lions in an upset.
All right, the Giants and the Eagles. How big do you think Philadelphia is going to win this one?
You promise not to faint?
What's that?
I like the Giants.
You what?
First time this year, okay.
What'd you have for dinner last night?
I'll tell you this. These teams are going to fight to like a 14-14, 17-17 tie and go overtime, and the kicking game of the Giants will win one. Hooray!
For the Sheik. How about the Chicago Bears down there in that nasty weather in Tampa?
Well, the nasty weather, that means the Bears are more accustomed to it being up there on the lake, so consequently the Bears should win this game weather-wise.
Let's hear it from Mike Ditka. When we come back, Jimmy, Charlesie's going to take a look at the big D of the Washington Redskins. We'll have that story in just a moment.
The best spark plug that Champion has ever made just got even better. Because Champion's new expanded Copper Plus spark plug line is now available for just about every domestic and imported car sold in America. From Chrysler to Renault, from Buick to Volkswagen and everything in between. Copper Plus, now ready to improve the performance of your car. Because no matter what you drive, nothing sparks like a Champion.
Thousands of years ago, the Ice Age covered this land. When it finally melted, it left behind water. The water that created a bountiful land, including this beautiful valley called God's Country. Today, Heilemann reaches far beneath the floor of this valley for the sparkling, pure, virgin spring water they use to brew Old Style. Heilemann's Old Style, pure brewed in God's Country, slowly and naturally.
What you are about to see is not science fiction. It's Seiko Sport Tech. For the serious runner, an amazing multifunction training watch with detachable cable release. There's the world's first analog quartz chronograph. Seiko watches to time competition sports. And an incredible watch you talk to that talks back. Seiko Sport Tech. Welcome to the 21st century. Seiko watches and clocks at your authorized dealer.
The soul of the Washington Redskin defense is a third-year lineman out of Oklahoma State named Dexter Manley. He's also known as Mr. D because of his resemblance to an intimidating character on a popular television show. And largely because of Mr. D, Washington has its own version of the A-Team.
It'd be a terrible business if you were in a football business and everybody was the same, you know. Dexter's certainly not the same.
He'll make you feel that you should love him because he's Dexter Manley.
Nobody has to talk about Dexter Manley. Dexter Manley talks about Dexter Manley.
They're full of all of them.
Dexter Manley is a product of the 5th Ward, Houston's toughest ghetto. At Oklahoma State, he showed flashes of brilliance while shuffling between linebacker and the defensive line. This year, his third in the NFL, he is having an all-pro season as a defensive end for the Washington Redskins.
I had the desire, something that I wanted to make something out of myself. If I'm going to be a bank robber, if I'm going to be a president, I want to be the best. If I'm going to be a football player, I want to be the best.
Gimme head with hair, long beautiful hair, shining, gleaming, steaming, cracking, waxing.
It's ironic that Manley has become almost as celebrated for his haircut as for his football. His nickname is Mr. D because many people find his haircut makes him resemble famous television star Mr. T. But don't tell Manley that. Dexter, did you consciously go for a Mr. T look?
I don't look like Mr. T. I'm better looking than Mr. T. I'm in a suit and tie. Mr. T, combat. I'm not combat.
But if you'd watch him on the football field, you'd have trouble believing Dexter isn't in combat. His target is the quarterback. His weapon is the sack, something he's done 11 times this year.
It's a great feeling. It's memories, joy, power, something that you can look back on that dollars can't replace. So I can feel good, wake up in the next morning, look in the mirror and say, Mr. D, you did it.
Once in a while, Manley's actions grate on an opponent. Only then can he cause the Redskins trouble.
He troubles me sometimes because some of his comments, he probably goes farther than what he should go with what he says.
He'll say something and he'll sheepishly, like a little boy that's been caught with his hands in the cookie jar, go, oh, geez, I'm sorry.
I'm no idiot. I wouldn't say anything that I couldn't back up or make me look stupid. Whatever I'm going to say, I'm going to back it up. Whatever.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. D. Dexter Manley.
Manley's numerous public appearances attract standing ovations wherever he goes in the D.C. area. You can be sure as long as he continues being himself, it will continue.
I'm not a superstar because I haven't achieved all my goals yet. I don't want to just be a football player. I want to be the best because I can be.
Bill Bain of the Rams is the man in charge of trying to block him in that key game. We come back. Irv Cross is going to take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and that awesome defense. We'll continue in just a moment.
New
typewriter, Miss Tompkins.
New typewriter, but I've got an IBM typewriter.
You, Miss Tompkins, 8th floor?
But I love my IBM. I depend on it.
Ah, but this one's got pages of memory and it can be upgraded.
But nothing else has the IBM Touch. Give somebody else that typewriter.
But this is an IBM, a new electronic IBM typewriter.
It takes an IBM typewriter to replace an IBM typewriter, the most preferred typewriter there is.
Why didn't you say so in the first place?
We just had to find a cheaper way to heat and cool our home. Then we heard about a system that uses a special pipe developed by Phillips Petroleum that circulates water below ground. The earth warms the water in the winter and cools it in the summer, so the system's heat pump works less. And our energy costs are cut up to 50%. Now, I don't have to buy gasoline at Phillips 66, but I do, because some of their ideas strike pretty close to home.
Fine products for you and your car from Phillips Petroleum, the performance company.
My dandruff shampoo is good.
Maybe you should try something else. My dandruff shampoo really works.
Maybe you should try something else, like Selsun Blue. Doctors and pharmacists recommend Selsun Blue more than all other leading brands combined. It's #1. What that means to you is no leading brand gets rid of dandruff better than Selsun Blue. Ask your doctor or pharmacist, or try it yourself. That's all the proof you'll need. Selsun Blue. It's #1.
One of the major developments in the evolution of football into the game it is today was the two-platoon system, specialist on offense and defense. And now the Pittsburgh Steelers are adding a new wrinkle to that, multiple players on defense alone. Last season, the Steelers began learning a new 3-4 defense. This year, they're playing it by constantly shuttling 19 players in and out. 9 of those players have less than 2 years' experience. But those youngsters, mixed with a handful of grizzled veterans from the days of the Steel Curtain, are beginning to dominate the AFC. The Steelers lead the AFC in sacks. The Steelers lead the league in interceptions. The Steelers have allowed the fewest first downs and the fewest points in the NFL. Perhaps the most interesting defensive stat starts with the offense. Pittsburgh has passed for 8 touchdowns this season. The defensive unit has scored 7. The Steelers have the highest scoring defense in the NFL. Old images die hard. Pittsburgh will always be known as the Steel City, even though steel is no longer the town's major industry. And likewise, the old Steel Curtain defense of the 70s will be known as one of the greatest of all time, even though today's Steeler defense just might be better than the old Steel Curtain. Is this defense as good as that?
Yeah, personally, I think this defense is maybe a grade higher than the defense in the past, because if you look at the records today...
Wait a minute. A grade higher than the defense in the past?
Yeah. They were more of a just knockdown, drag-out kind of guys, and even though they played well, I think we have a lot more ability as young people than they did.
It's always hard to compare, say, a Keith Willis with a L.C. Greenwood or Dwight White, but those guys are, in my opinion, in the same mold.
Rookie Keith Gary and second-year free agent Keith Willis have 19 sacks between them. Willis has 13, and that breaks Ernie Holmes' single-season record with 5 games still to play.
We've got some young people up front, especially Keith Willis and Keith Gary. They've gotten great pressure on the quarterback just rushing the 3 people up front. It's 3 against 5, and that brings back old memories of the Steel Curtain day.
Does Jack like being in a 3-4?
No way. He likes to have 4-3 where he can roam tackle to tackle. He says he feels pinned inside there in that 3-4.
Wouldn't it be something? Jack Lambert against Jimmy Brown. Will Brown or won't he? Can he or can't he? We'll check that story when we continue here on CBS in just a moment.
Scirocco. It's not a car. It's a Volkswagen.
No lights. And I was dreaming of a bright Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho. At Ace, we light up your Christmas with the Noma 100 Mini Light Set. Multicolor or clear bulbs, safe indoors and out. A November Best Buy at $444.
Here's another Best Buy you can count on. The Sharp Solar Calculator. Runs on any kind of light, never needs batteries. And Best Buy priced at $697.
For me,
Merry Christmas.
Ace is the place.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware man.
A Christmas gift from Radio Shack.
Before Christmas, my son just had to take me with him to see Radio Shack's 160-in-1 electronic project kit. He can build radios, learn about transmitters, computer circuits, even electronic sound effects. Everything's pre-mounted and solar or battery powered. They had all sorts of project kits. It's nice to give him something he really wants. It's educational, too.
The 160-in-1 electronic project kit, $29.95, only at Radio Shack.
This week, the great Jim Brown stunned the football world when he declared that after being out of the game for nearly 2 decades, he was ready to play again in the NFL. Do our 3 experts think he can do it? He certainly thinks he can, and so do others.
I want to show that at 47, I could do exactly what Franco is doing right now.
The monuments Jim Brown built with his legs still stand. Total yardage, most seasons leading the league in rushing. Most games of 100 yards or more, he did that 58 times. Highest average yards per carry. Now, 2 decades later, he sets 3 conditions for coming out of retirement and playing again.
First of all, he has to break it this year. The second option would be that he'll have to beat me in a 40-yard dash. If he beats me in a 40-yard dash, I'll give it up. I'll give him the crown. I'll step out of the way. I'll never talk about this again. The last circumstance, the last option is that I only want to play with the Raiders.
But the Raiders don't seem eager to sign a 47-year-old running back. In the meantime, Harris is closing in on Brown's career record, and Jim does not like the way he's going about it.
Franco has brought a style into the league wherein the announcers are now saying that it's very smart to run out of bounds. I don't believe in that philosophy, so it's very difficult for me to equate greatness with running out of bounds. I think at one time in his career, he was a dominant factor. I think now, you know, he's there, and that's about it.
No one ever accused Brown of running out of bounds, but he was in his 20s then. And the question today remains, does he have enough speed and strength left to outrun Father Time?
Brown could do it. Even at age 47, there's no doubt in my mind that he could do it.
If there's one guy who could do it, he'd be the guy.
Jimmy, do you agree with Paul Brown?
Forget about it. At 47 and you get hit. But there is one thing everybody forgets. If he makes one play, he gets $250,000 more.
Why?
Because he's a 10-year man. Al Davis said he's waiting for a call from George Blanda now.
Oh, right. Well, Irv, do you agree with Jimmy that Brown can't do it?
Well, I agree on the money. That's minimum wage to Jimmy, right? But look, put Jim Brown in the backfield now. Single backfield, 2 tight ends, Jim Brown back there running tackle to tackle. It's got to be a great ball carrier. I think he can do it.
Listen, you're in pretty good shape. You going to try it?
I can come back as a free safety and pass defense.
At halftime, we'll update Notre Dame and Warren Moon. So long, everybody.
Tonight on a special 1-hour Alice, Vera gets engaged, but a marriage mix-up could nip her nuptials in the bud. It's a major television event when Vera gets married. Then, George Jefferson pumps iron to fight guest star Rosie Greer.
If you still intend on pressing something, there's a dressing in my room that needs a touch-up.
And on Goodnight Beantown, will Jenny keep Matt from running away to
Central America? Hasta la vista.
Then on Trapper John, a marathon runner pushes himself to the limit.
You may have just had a heart attack.
Tonight, this is CBS.
Are still winning with Cliff Stout at quarterback, despite the fact he's thrown 5 more interceptions than touchdowns. For 12 seasons in Pittsburgh, the Steeler running game has been this man, number 32, Franco Harris. But they also have youth. 25 of Pittsburgh's 49 players have 3 years or less experience. Second-year running back Walter Abercrombie adds an extra dimension. Pittsburgh still solid defensively. Gone is the steel curtain defense, replaced by a quicker line, but still the great linebacking core. for Minnesota. Steve Dill starts his 9th game since replacing the injured Tommy Kramer, but injuries to the offensive line have hampered the Vikings, and second-year running back Darren Nelson has been the Vikings' offense. For Bud Grant, 3 straight losses, but still the Vikings tied for the division lead. Live from Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium, it's the 93rd consecutive sellout here, a big battle between the AFC and the NFC Central Division leaders. You see the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they've got that 3-game lead over the Cleveland Browns in the AFC Central. In the NFC Central, the Minnesota Vikings tied with the Green Bay Packers for the top spot. Hi again, everybody. I'm Jim Kelly, former New York Jet, former Pittsburgh Steeler, John Dockery alongside. He wears a Super Bowl ring, and that's where these two teams are trying to get, but they're taking different paths, John. The Steelers have won 7 straight, and the Vikings of Bud Grant uncharacteristically have lost 3 in a row.
Scott Studwell just described that losing streak as a ball rolling downhill about to crush the Minnesota Vikings, but he said it won't happen. The Vikings view this game more than just a game. It's more a test of manhood, not to be won with finesse.
As you know, John, when you think of the Steelers, you think of Terry Bradshaw and John Stallworth. They're both out with injuries. Lynn Swann has since retired. Franco Harris is here. He is healthy. But most of all, when you think of Pittsburgh, you think of that punishing physical defense.
They do it with defense. They're doing it again. It's intimidating. It's like a giant black and gold wave rolling over the opponents and engulfing them. Perhaps Scott Studwell summed it up best when he said, Pittsburgh doesn't play defense, they play war.
You're looking at Benny Ricardo, who will tee it up from the 35-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings, and back deep for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Henry Odom, number 44, will be to the top of your screen. Tim Harris, number 43, to the near side. And this football game from a sold-out Three Rivers Stadium is underway. Henry Odom gets a block, needs one more to spring it big. Across the 35, out of bounds near the 38. Chased out by Rufus Bess out of South Carolina State. And the Steelers, with the home crowd and the emotion, break out on a big kickoff return. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Cliff Stout at quarterback. Franco Harris, the NFL's second all-time leading ground gainer. Walter Abercrombie adds that extra dimension. You notice at the center spot, Emil Boris will start breaking Mike Webster's string. Webster is in, so his streak stays alive. He has now started 116 consecutive games. Franco Harris, trap blocking by the Steelers up near the 40-yard line. He picks up 3, brings up second down and 7. So Mike Webster now, 156 consecutive games. Tack on one more, John Dockery. That is some streak. You look at the defense of the Vikings.
Minnesota with Charlie Johnson, the former All-Pro with Philadelphia Eagles at the nose guard, all-important position. A solid bunch of linebackers led by All-Pro Matt Blair. A good defensive backfield.
Walter Abercrombie sweeps to the right side and will get close to first down yardage up near the 47-yard line. Chased out by the third-year left side cornerback out of Miami of Florida, John Swain. Blocking by Wolfley and Corson leading the charge around that right side.
And there you see Abercrombie's numbers. A nice balance Abercrombie provides for Franco Harris. Franco Harris, of course, the great trap runner up the middle that has good speed. Abercrombie, the #1 draft choice in 1982, has that acceleration outside to balance Franco up the middle.
The measurement now, the referee is Jim Tunney and his crew. Steelers, anticipating a short yardage situation, have sent in 3 tight ends, Benny Cunningham, John Rogers, and Craig Dunaway.
How'd you make out yesterday?
They might not need the 3 tight ends. By about the width of the chain, John Dockery, a first down for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
7 yards.
You talk about first series being important. The mindset of each team. Pittsburgh, they're hot, they're rolling, they're confident, they're growing. They've won 7 in a row. Minnesota Vikings are wondering what they have to do. A couple of weeks ago, they were in first place with a 2-game cushion. Now they've lost 3 in a row. Tough day for them here in Pittsburgh.
Calvin Sweeney wide to the left side. Greg Garrity is in the slot. 1st and 10 for Pittsburgh from their own 47. Garrity in motion, top of your screen. Franco Harris, nothing doing, chopped down at the line of scrimmage. Dennis Johnson in his 4th year out of USC. 52 tackles for the Minnesota Vikings, stacked him up.
And, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers have done it without, as you look at Franco's statistics, without Terry Bradshaw. Stout stepping in, growing and maturing, getting more confident week in and week out.
has yet to throw his first pass of the afternoon. It's 2nd and 10 from approaching the 48-yard line. Abercrombie deployed to the top of your screen. Garrity in the slot, bottom left. And outside of him, again, is Calvin Sweeney. Stout can run for it. Benny Cunningham, first down inside Minnesota territory. Joey Browner on the tackle. A great block by Mike Webster.
And we talked about Mike Webster having problems. He was in the hospital yesterday with a fever. Here he throws a great block. Watch the right side of your screen. Stout with a fake, rolls out. He's a very mobile quarterback. He leads the NFL in rushing for quarterbacks. Right here, bing, Webster gets rid of number 73, Neil Elshire. It's the completion to Cunningham, first down.
A 22-yard pickup for Cunningham. First down for the Steelers, their second straight. Walter Abercrombie sweeps the right side. Huge hole. First down and more. Joey Browner chased him out of bounds, blocking over on that right side by Steve Corson, 77, 6th year out of South Carolina. Craig Wolfley in his 4th year out of Syracuse.
And the Pittsburgh offensive line is just moving the defensive line from the Minnesota Vikings right off the ball. Take a look at it here. There's Webster, number 52. You see 66 coming around, Ted Peterson. Abercrombie around the outside. Good block by Craig Wolfley, number 73. Abercrombie shows that acceleration, takes it upfield. Pittsburgh's threatening.
From the 14 of Minnesota, 1st and 10 for the Steelers. Motion by Garrity, bottom of the screen. Franco inside, trap blocking inside the 10, and he bowls his way down to about the 7-yard line. Matt Blair in his 10th year out of Iowa State was simply hanging on like the back of riding a Bronco bull.
And you shouldn't be surprised that Pittsburgh's running the ball this well. They're the 2nd best in the NFL at running the ball. They're averaging 174 yards a game. As a matter of fact, one of the few teams to gain more yards on the ground than through the air.
Pittsburgh's strength, of course, the rushing game with Franco Harris, that huge offensive line. They worked out all week on the running game. Vikings knew they would face it. Minnesota said they had a good week of practice, despite the fact they've lost 3 in a row. Franco inside, slithers to about the 4. Matt Blair again in there on the tackle. It'll bring up a 3rd down and short yardage situation. And here in Pittsburgh in November, usually this time of year, we anticipate snow and ice, but that's not the case. But we do have a little bit of rain starting to sprinkle here.
A little bit of drizzle starting to sprinkle. Another reason we'd expect Pittsburgh to run the ball is because Minnesota is one of the worst in the NFL against the rush. They rank number 25.
3 tight ends again for the Steelers: Cunningham, Rogers, and Dunaway. Steelers 3rd and less than a yard. Abercrombie and Franco Harris are the running backs. Cliff Stout simply goes over the back of Mike Webster in his 10th year out of Wisconsin. And it's a first down for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 1st and goal. Pretty impressive opening drive. This is what the Vikings didn't want to do. Last week it was the same kind of a situation. Minnesota drove right down the field. They had it 1st and goal from the 4-yard line of Green Bay. Had to settle for a field goal, and after that it was all Packers.
Packers went ahead 19-0. The Vikings did come back, but they weren't able to beat the Packers last week. Thus, they're tied in the NFC Central.
Right, because Benny Ricardo missed that field goal from 31 yards out. And you talk about momentum against the Vikings last week. It's kind of set the tone for the game, a game in which they had 7 turnovers. First and goal for Pittsburgh. Stout, Cunningham, touchdown. You know, Doc, he had his choice of receivers that time. Abercrombie was open in the right corner of the end zone, and Cunningham on a crossing pattern with the 3 tight ends. He was wide open as well. Out of the hold of Craig Colquitt, Gary Anderson, the AFC's leading scorer, will try to add to the Steeler advantage. He does. Opening drive, the Steelers march it right down and punch it in. A 3-yard scoring strike from Cliff Stout to Benny Cunningham. Pittsburgh leads 7-0.
Yesterday, Chuck Noll was telling Benny Cunningham to run this play very shallow across. Here the play action fake, not much of one. Cunningham comes across the field, catches a touchdown. Pittsburgh's ahead.
The Honda Accord LX 4-door sedan. It comes with a long list of standard equipment. Cruise control, air conditioning, a sophisticated stereo, a lighted mirror, power door locks and windows. The Accord LX has everything. Almost. The yacht is optional.
As a relief pitcher, everybody thought I had it easy. See Pat here? He'd pitch his heart out for 8 innings or so, and then
Sparky come in, toss 3 or 4 pitches, and walk away with a win.
But I had to
train just like the rest of us.
Yeah, well, I still like to keep in shape, and I drink
He drinks light beer from Miller.
See, light's
less filling,
and light
really tastes great.
Will you just let me finish?
Why? You never let me finish.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Let me finish that for you, Sparky.
Chrysler Plymouth is the official team car of the...
Didn't take the Steelers long. They took the opening possession, capped off by Cliff Stout's 9th scoring strike of the season. Benny Cunningham caught his 2nd touchdown of the season. A 3-yard pass, and the Steelers lead it 7-0. Leo Lewis is back deep. This is Jarvis Redwine. Out of bounds at the 21-yard line, chased out by Mike Merriweather in his 2nd year out of the Pacific. And so now Steve Dills out of Stanford, starting his 9th game since replacing the injured Tommy Kramer. That's Bud Grant, of course, the head coach for the Minnesota Vikings in his 17th season on the sideline. Steve Dills will work with Tony Galbraith and Darren Nelson in the backfield. Ted Brown is still out with a shoulder injury. The wide receivers are Sam McCullum along with Sammy White. The offensive line, Dennis Swilley, despite a shoulder problem, gets a start at center, number 67, and Dave Casper, the tight end, replacing Brewer and Joe Sensor. Motion by Leo Lewis. Pitch back. That is Tony Galbraith up near the 27-yard line. Lauren Tays in there on the tackle. Now, the strength of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is, of course, playing against that running game. Interesting, in talking to some of the Vikings at the hotel, as you look at the Steeler defense, Doc, the Minnesota Vikings work all week on the running game specifically. Despite the fact Pittsburgh is so strong, they feel they can run on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I don't believe they can against Jack Lambert and company, an experienced secondary led by Mel Blount, Donnie Shell. This is a good defense that ranks 2nd in the NFL.
2nd and 4. Dills to put it up. A little flare-out pattern complete to Ricky Young looping out of the backfield. You isolate the back one-on-one with a linebacker, and it's a 1st down for the Minnesota Vikings.
I think if the Minnesota Vikings are going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers today, they're going to have to mix it up. Darren Nelson is going to have a game like he had last week. He had 278 yards in total offense, set a new record for the Minnesota Vikings. He is the big play man for the Minnesota Vikings.
From the 33 of the Steelers, 1st and 10 Pittsburgh, wide receivers left and right. Inside handoff to Tony Galbraith, who had 2 fumbles and lost them both last week against the Packers. And that again set the tone for the first half for the Vikings as they fell behind by that 19-0 score. This time Galbraith hangs onto the ball. Lambert and Tays with a tackle.
And of course the Minnesota Vikings have lost some of their home run hitters. Tommy Kramer, the inspirational quarterback, out with an injury. Joe Sensor not here. Double coverage on Sammy White has just about shut him down this season.
Double tight end alignment now. Dave Casper in there along with Bobby Brewer. Inside handoff again. Galbraith breaks it at the 40 and bowls his way up to about the 42. What a collision there. Robin Cole in his 7th year out of New Mexico, 6'2", 220. 1st-round draft pick of the Steelers back in '77.
And it's interesting, we do not see Darren Nelson in the game. He was banged up after last week's loss to the Green Bay Packers, and that superlative effort. He didn't work out all week long. We haven't seen him in the game yet.
Well, Bud Grant told us last night at the hotel if we did see a Darren Nelson, he wouldn't be anywhere near 100% in what he did last week against the Green Bay Packers. In fact, he said he'd be used sparingly, if at all. Young in the backfield with Galbraith on 3rd and less than a yard. Ricky Young, 1st down, Minnesota up near the 48 of the Vikings. Rick Woods, in his 2nd year out of Boise State, made the tackle secure for the Steelers.
An important 1st down to a man. As you look at Ricky Young's statistics, to a man, the Minnesota Vikings said they'll have to pick up the intensity level. A couple of weeks ago against St. Louis, when this losing streak started, they were totally flat. Then they lost to Tampa Bay. They were embarrassed. Last week against Green Bay, an important game, they didn't play with the intensity that they needed. Today they're hoping to get it against a high-flying Pittsburgh Steelers.
From the 48 of the Vikings, Lewis wide left, Sammy White to the top of your screen. Gary Dunn, 67. For the Steelers, looked like he jumped off sides. We'll check with Jim Tunney and see if he was drawn off. That's Art McNally's $10 word coming up here. I think encroachment, right?
Encroachment. Defense. 7. Still first down.
Let's see if it changes the play call at all on 1st and 5 now. Again, Lewis to the bottom of your screen. Sammy White to the top. Lone running back, Tony Galbraith. Down to the 42 and close to first down yardage goes the former Missouri Tiger. Came over to the Vikings in a trade with the Saints back in '81, and Jack Lambert, the veteran, 10th year at Penn State, made the tackle. Kent State.
Tony Galbraith, a much better pass receiver out of the backfield than he is as a runner in New Orleans. 4 to 5 years he was there, he was a top pass receiver, one of the top in the top 10 in the NFC. So he's more of a runner. Without Ted Brown, the loss of Ted Brown is really a problem for the Minnesota Vikings. He was their bread and butter man, not only a good pass receiver out of the backfield, but their bread and butter man on the ground. They don't really have anybody to replace him.
Another first down for the Minnesota Vikings inside Pittsburgh Steeler territory. It's interesting, though, John, as you take a look at that score, a 16-yard scoring strike from Kenny Anderson to Dan Ross, 12:49 left to go down in Bengal land. The Vikings always seem to rise to the occasion. When a good player like a Tommy Kramer goes down, Steve Dills comes in, and everybody else tries to pick up some of the slack. A short pickup of about 2 yards by Galbraith. You saw Dave Casper go in motion. He threw the lead block. Wes Hamilton pulled in his 8th year out of Tulsa, but then the Steeler defense made the adjustment.
The Minnesota offensive line has been having a problem as you look at Bud Grant. Last week, Steve Dills was sacked 6 times. The offensive line is hurting. Dennis Swilley, the center, number 67, is playing with a sore ankle. Gary Dunn, the nose guard, right over him. That could be a problem for Bud Grant all day long.
2nd and 8 for the Minnesota Vikings. They trail 7-0. Dills to put it up. Threw that one out of bounds. Pressure by Laurentiis. Penalty flag. Maybe down, and Dills is definitely down at the 47-yard line. Interesting, because the pressure that Taves put on Dills right there, Doc, he was not able to see Leo Lewis curling open at about the 20-yard line. Leo Lewis was wide open, but Dills, because of the pressure, never saw it.
Dills last week must have been hit close to 15 times. He was sacked, as I mentioned before, 6 times. He's taken a beating all year long because an offensive line has been like Swiss cheese. Now, if Steve Dills can't play, then it's either Archie Manning or Wade Wilson. We'll find out in a moment. Pittsburgh leads here at Three Rivers Stadium.
Honda would like to make a point about the new car. It goes an EPA estimated 51 miles per gallon, 67 highway. It's the #1 gas mileage car in America, period. The new Honda Civic CRX. The longest distance between 2 points.
When you're looking for quality products at extra special prices, look no further than True Value Hardware Store's Hardware Value of the Month. In November, get this multi-outlet center for just $8.88. It converts 1 outlet into 6 safely and economically, and has a circuit breaker that interrupts the current if an overload occurs. You can get this multi-outlet center for only $8.88 while supplies last, wherever you see the November Hardware Value of the Month banner at participating True Value Hardware stores and home centers.
Steve Dills ran out under his own power. Archie Manning is playing his first down now in a Minnesota Viking uniform since that trade from the Houston Oilers. 3rd and 8. Slot formation to the left side from the 40-yard line of Pittsburgh. Tony Galbraith. First down, Minnesota, inside the 30-yard line. Donnie Shell hanging on. Archie Manning goes off, and Steve Dills comes back in.
You have to be surprised the way the Minnesota Vikings are running the ball against this fine Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Ranks #2 in the league, 4th against the rush.
Galbraith, the lone running back again. Lewis wide to the left. Fumble. And it looked as if Steve Dills got it back. Vikings on the short end, 7-0. Meanwhile, let's find out on Green Bay. Brent?
Packers strike first, and it's a splendid catch by J.J. John Jefferson. Lynn Dickey is high. Touchdown, Green Bay. 7-0 over Detroit. Let's go back to Jim Kelly.
Brent, the Vikings, of course, know only too well what John Jefferson and James Lofton and Lynn Dickey did last week. Steve Dills on 2nd and 11. Play action, roll out right side. Open in the middle. Touchdown! Sam McCollum. And John Dockery, it was the play action that actually allowed McCollum to break free, and more importantly, Steve Dills to see him breaking free.
Steve Dills had time. He was going to throw elsewhere, but then he looked back. Sam McCollum one-on-one on Mel Blount. Mel Blount, of course, 14 years in the league, just doesn't turn on the speed there to make it up. Touchdown, Minnesota Vikings back in this contest.
Benny Ricardo, and we've got a tie football game. So the Steelers score on their first possession. The Minnesota Vikings come right back and answer with a touchdown of their own. These division leaders all even at 7.
It's one of my bigger days.
Let me buy a beer.
Sure. These fans, I love them. When I came in, they didn't recognize me at first, but then when I told them who I was, next thing you know, they're buying me my favorite beer, light beer from Miller. They know us ex-big leaguers drink light because it's got a third less calories than their regular beer. It's less filling, and it tastes great. Thanks.
Hey, it's a pleasure to buy a beer for a great pitcher like Whitey Ford.
Hey. So I lied.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, Whitey, I thought you were a lefty.
Oh, that's right.
The line. The hood line is low for less wind resistance and more visibility. The roof line is long for more headroom and usable space. The outline is aerodynamic for more performance. The new line of Civic hatchbacks from Honda. The line is drawn for the future.
We're back at a sold-out Three Rivers Stadium here in Pittsburgh. A big battle between the AFC's leading Pittsburgh Steelers and the Minnesota Vikings, who lead the NFC Central. They're tied with the Green Bay Packers, and as you heard from Brent Musburger, and we'll be updating all the scores and highlights with Brent and Irv back at NFL Control. The Vikings are out, or the Packers are out in front, 7-0 in their game this afternoon. We expected a defensive struggle, Doc. This one could be wide open.
And it's so important for the Minnesota Vikings to come back after falling 7-0 behind 7-0 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially at home where the Steelers are ever so tough.
Benny Ricardo will boot it from the 35. Odom and Harris are back deep. This is Henry Odom. Almost a repeat of the opening kickoff. This one stacked up at the 27. Willie Teal, number 37, in there in the tackle.
And that scoring drive by the Minnesota Vikings was 11 plays, 79 yards, 5 minutes, 34 seconds. Finally, Dills found Sam McCollum beating Mel Blount. 30-yard touchdown to tie the score.
1st and 10 for Cliff Stout and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Greg Garrity wide to the right side. Calvin Sweeney deployed to the right. Motion by Sweeney, top of your screen. Franco gets the call, hurdles over a couple of Vikings at the line of scrimmage, and approaches the 29-yard line in the grasp of Scott Studwell. And Studwell, he didn't mince any words with you on the telephone earlier this week when talking about the preparation for this game. He said all of the Vikings know their backs are up against the wall.
And he says it's going to be a war. We have to rise to the challenge. As Studwell leaves, situational defenses change. The linemen, four down linemen come in now to get the best of the pass rush. They put in an extra defensive back to cover in the secondary.
They are also very concerned, Studwell and the Vikings defense, about that man, Cliff Stout. They said they have to be contained conscious about Cliff Stout because of his running ability. He leads all the NFL quarterbacks in rushes. Inside handoff to Franco Harris, and maybe they lost a half a yard. So it'll bring up 3rd and a passing situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Doug Martin and Randy Holloway in there in the tackle defensively. Neil Lomax, a touchdown toss to Pat Tilley, 71 yards. That's more than a toss, that's a heave. And, of course, the Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day right here on CBS. We've got a football feast for you, and it all starts with the NFL today. Hawthorne is in for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He, of course, a wide receiver as well as a running back. They think he's got great hands and great potential. Slot to the right side. They need 9. Incomplete over the middle, looking for Calvin Sweeney, and the Steelers will punt the pigskin away.
Sweeney, incomplete. 4th down.
Watching Calvin Sweeney walk off, as we talked to him yesterday at the Pittsburgh Steelers workout, he said, I really like to make that first catch because people always compare me to Stallworth and Swan. If I make the first catch, it gives me a little extra confidence for the rest of the football game.
I know people would say, well, Lynn Swan would have had that, and of course, Stout has that same problem. He's getting over it because the Steelers are 9-2, and they're on their way to the playoffs, so people are no longer saying, well, Brett Joe would have done this, this, or this.
Craig Colquitt, who averages about 42 yards a punt, is back deep. Rufus Best, 21, awaits at the 31-yard line of the Vikings. Pittsburgh might have taken too much time. Jim Tunney with a preliminary indication. They did. That'll back them up 5 more, so it'll be 4th and 15.
Delay, 5 yards, still 4th down.
Rufus Best, again number 21, is back deep for the Vikings. He averages about 7 yards a return on the punts. Second year out of South Carolina State. And there again is Craig Colquitt out of Tennessee in his 5th year, who averages about 42 yards a punt. High spiraling kick. He banged a beauty. It backs Bess up to the 23. They've got the wall on the left side. He springs it out near the 36. And a penalty flag is thrown out of bounds, chased out by David Little in his 3rd year from Florida. Let's check the flag with Jim Tunney. The Oilers have come back against the Bengals down in Cincinnati with a field goal by Florian Kemp of 34 yards. Cincinnati still leads 7-3. Of course, you take a look at the AFC Central Division standings. The Pittsburgh Steelers lead with a record of 9-2. They've got a 3-game lead over the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are playing the Patriots up in Foxborough this afternoon. Cleveland is 6-5. Cincinnati 4-7. And Houston, they just won their first game. They are 1-10.
And then you look over in that Central Division in the NFC, you see Green Bay, Minnesota tied. Detroit only a game back. Detroit beats Green Bay today, and Minnesota should lose. That'll be a 3-way tie.
Illegal push in the back during the run back. Number 33, 10 yards, 1st down.
Again, problems that plagued the Vikings all last week in that loss to Green Bay. Penalties and mistakes. 7 fumbles last week against Green Bay, including a costly penalty that halted a touchdown drive. We're tied 7-all.
If you're looking for an investment firm, I've got some advice for you. I want to tell you the single best way to choose that investment firm. Just ask a lot of investors a lot of questions. Ask if their broker really listens, really cares, and ask them how they're doing. I'm telling you this because I believe you're going to hear a lot of good things about one company, Dean Witter. I think you'll find Dean Witter worth asking about.
Dean Witter, worth asking about.
Still time to get to Sears' biggest automotive sale of the year. Save 10 to 50% on every Sears tire. Weather Handler all-season radials as low as $99 a set of 4. Road Handler highway radials as low as $44.99 each. 10W40 oil, 79 cents a quart. And Die-Hard car batteries, just $49.99 with trade. Sale ends Saturday. At Sears, we install confidence, day and night.
There's more for your life at Sears.
Monday on Emerald Point, Leslie's secret affair explodes while Hillary faces a new kind of blackmail.
What's your price? I want to marry your father.
Time remaining in the first quarter, tied 7-all, 1st and 10 from the 25. Handoff, Tony Galbraith, inside, cuts it back against the grain, and gets a forearm to the helmet at the 32-yard line. Donnie Shell and Rick Woods, that's making a tackle secure. We talk about the physical, the punishment of the Pittsburgh defense.
they expect it to be a war. The Pittsburgh defense has always been that way. That's one of the reasons they have an edge when anyone comes to play them. People have to start thinking about the physical aspects of it, and at times if you're doing that, you forget about the technical aspects of playing your game.
McCullum, he has the touchdown reception wide to the right. Quick count. Ricky Young dives up near the 35. Ricky, in his 9th year out of Jackson State, came over to Minnesota in the trade with San Diego back in '78. And Jack Lambert, piling on, made the tackle for Pittsburgh.
You talk about it happening so many times in the NFL. People taking up the slack. Ted Brown is hurt. We've mentioned it from Minnesota. Darren Nelson not playing. So Tony Galbraith carrying the ball already 7 times, has 41 yards. Ricky Young also contributing.
That offensive line came into the game with a little something to prove, I think, after the game against Green Bay, when Dills had such a rough afternoon in terms of pass protection. 3rd and short, double tight in there now for the Vikings. Brewer and Casper. First down. Ricky Young went underneath that time and kind of submarine, and the Vikings keep the ball. Dunn and Lambert in there for the Steelers, but it's another first down. However, we've got a procedure call against the Minnesota Vikings. Dills goes up to check and find out who it was. Jim Tunney will tell us. There is Bud Grant. You know, he told us last night in the hotel, after losing 3 in a row and with the Steelers having won 7 straight, this is not the time of year you want to be playing Pittsburgh.
Illegal formation. Number 78 reported eligible. Was not on the end of the line. Still 3rd down.
But Bud Grant also said, as you look at 3rd and 6, Bud Grant also says, you know what, I've been in a few fights when I was a kid, and that's what we're going to do when we go into Pittsburgh. We're going to rise to the occasion, to the challenge, and put up the fight. And that's what they're doing so far in this game.
3rd and 6, slot to the left side. Leo Lewis wide right. Tony Galbraith, nothing doing. Robin Cole got him down low around the ankles, and the Vikings will have to punt. Interesting. So after each team drives up and down the field and scores a touchdown, now the defense start to make some adjustments.
And this is a good Pittsburgh defense, as you see Robin Cole leaving the field. So instead of a mistake for the Minnesota Vikings, instead of a first down, a continuing drive, a building of their confidence, what do? They make a mistake, and they have to punt it away to Pittsburgh.
Interesting, too, on 3rd and a passing situation for the 2nd straight time. Bud Grant elects to keep it on the ground. Coleman back to do the kicking. He averages about 41.5 yards per kick in his 7th year out of Florida A&M. Paul Skansky, the rookie, averaging about 9 yards a return, is back deep at the 25. Look out! A bobbled snap, and Coleman gets it away. That was simply great individual effort by Coleman, but there will be a penalty flag down. Got to believe that the Vikings had a man downfield too soon.
You'd have to think that, of course, with him Coleman holding the ball so long, his coverage counts a couple of beats, then they go downfield. They don't see the ball. Here's the call against the Vikings. Coleman did a heck of a job to get that ball away. He was rushed, pulled it down, ran a few steps, and finally kicked it.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Steelers decline it. They've got the ball up around their own 40-yard line and pretty good field position.
Ineligible man, number 58, downfield during the punt, declined. First down, Pittsburgh.
Exactly right, Mr. Jim Kelly.
So both the Vikings and the Steelers have a touchdown pass. We've got a 7-all tie, the AFC and NFC Central Division leaders.
We are an explorer, a farmer, a miner, and an insurance company. We're a pipeline, a truck line, a gold mine, and a leasing company. We're a builder, a printer, a logger, and an energy company. We are more than 41,000 men and women working in 18 different industries all across America. We are Southern Pacific. We also run a railroad.
Time left in our first quarter here at a sold-out Three Rivers Stadium. We talk about Greg Coleman. Watch the pressure by Donnie Shell and then the great job Coleman does.
Coleman would have had this block. He bobbles it a little bit. Shell comes in right there, misses him. Coleman starts to run, knows he has no place to go, finally kicks it, and probably saves the Minnesota Vikings 40 yards or so.
No question about it, because if they block the punt, they either take it in for a touchdown or they've got it inside the 20. They start now from their own 40, the Steelers do. 1st and 10. Play action, Stout gives the pump fake. He's got Calvin Sweeney out of bounds at the 20-yard line. Bumped out by Willie Teal, but that ball could not have been caught regardless.
And that was what Calvin Sweeney and Stout told us yesterday. They said Minnesota Viking defensive backs have a tendency to settle around 15 yards. That time Sweeney just ran an out and up, and he had Teal beaten. Stout didn't get him the ball.
Sweeney was open for a moment, and Stout threw the ball out of bounds. He also had a wide-open Franco Harris down at about the 50-yard line, but once he gave it the pump fake, he was looking at Sweeney the whole way.
A good idea, though. It loosens up that secondary.
2nd and 10 from the 39. Slot formation to the left side. Franco Harris, the lone running back, and Stout will go airborne again. Grounded, however, at the 30-yard line, in the grasp of Charlie Johnson and a host of Minnesota Vikings on defense.
And that's the kind of enthusiasm and pressure that Charlie Johnson and Duck White, number 72, have to get. They must put pressure on Cliff Stout. What Stout wants to do is to establish the running game, have it all his own way, and pick his spots to throw the ball. That way, that time, he diverted from his policy a little bit by play-action pass, trying to get it all on 1st down, put him in a passing situation on 2nd down. Now it's 3rd and long, not a situation that Stout is that good at.
Sweeney in the slot left. Outside of him is Hawthorne. To the top of your screen is Greg Garrity. Stout needs 17. He can run for part of it. Will dive down at the 45 and still be 4 yards shy of 1st down yardage. Matt Blair had a shot at him. And Cliff Stout, that was not by design. That was by fear, I guess.
By fear or by improvisation, as Cliff Stout told us. He doesn't run. He's not the leading quarterback rushing the ball in the NFL by design. They only have 1 or 2 plays for him to run. He does it when necessary. That time the receivers were covered. He wisely tucked it in and made some yardage, even though he didn't get the 1st down.
It's 4th and 4 for the Steelers, but that's the end of the first quarter. Steve Dills, a scoring strike, and that was answered by one for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, we're tied at 7.
The Honda Accord LX 4-door sedan. It comes with a long list of standard equipment. Cruise control, air conditioning, a sophisticated stereo, a lighted mirror, power door locks and windows. The Accord LX has everything. Almost. The yacht is optional.
All right, we're up 15. We got this game won.
Yeah, you guys are buying a light beer from Miller. Yeah, nice Philly. Tasty!
1 ounce to go. Yeah, what can he do to his mouth?
Hey, keep the change. Here's Rodney!
Any pinch hitters left?
Here I am.
Come on, Lee!
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, wait a minute. This game isn't over yet. I caught that ball.
Jim Kelly and John Dockery back live at Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium. We're tied 7-all. The Steelers and the Vikings. Colquitt will go for the coffin corner near side. Rufus Best will watch it bounce at the 20 and then take a terrific bounce inside the 5, out of bounds at the 4-yard line. Colquitt, he had that one wired end zone to end zone.
When it's going right for you, it's going right. Of course, Pittsburgh on a 7-game roll. I thought it was interesting that Bud Grant compared the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Washington Redskins.
What's going on with that Giants game? Let's go to New York. Here's Brent Musburger.
Jim, so far, the Giants are dominating the Eagles. Watch Butch Woolfolk. Sweep right, blockers out in front. Giants look pretty good. They lead by 10 points. Back to Jim.
Giants are 2-8-1. The Eagles are 4-7. All the scores and highlights with Brent and Irv at halftime. But we're a long way. 14:52 in the second quarter. Huge hole right side for the Vikings. Galbraith breaks it up across the 5 to about the 8-yard line. Blocking over there by Wes Hamilton, 61. Timmy Irvin, 76.
And Tony, of course, we all know Jack Lambert, number 58. Take a look right here. He gets taken out of the play. He steps up. It is taken out by Wes Hamilton, number 61. Galbraith gets a few yards.
2nd and 6 for the Vikings, digging a huge hole. Gary Dunn, and he wrestles Galbraith down, so now it's be careful time.
It's an interesting situation for Bud Grant and Steve Dills. Now, do you be careful and give the ball back to the Pittsburgh Steelers with good field position, or do you go for it on 3rd and 7?
Well, I guess you've got to maybe do some play-action passing here and try to pick up the first down. You don't want to punt from your own end zone. And then if Dills is pressured or the receivers are covered, you can throw the ball out of bounds.
And they're so good at that. The Minnesota Vikings, one of the best possession, high percentage passing teams in the NFL.
We've got 13:46. The Minnesota Vikings have asked for a timeout. Pittsburgh scored first in their first possession. The Vikings did likewise. We're knotted up 7-all.
Pontiac. Like a burst from the sun, 2000 Sunbird has arrived. Pontiac's overhead cam 5-speed performer. 2000 Sunbird. Easy to own, fun to drive. 2000 Sunbird. Pontiac excitement precisely the way you like it. 2000 Sunbird. Only from Pontiac.
We build excitement. Pontiac.
What you are about to see is not science fiction. It's Seiko Sport Tech. For the serious runner, an amazing multifunction training watch with detachable cable release. There's the world's first analog quartz chronograph. Seiko watches to time competition sports. And an incredible watch you talk to that talks back. Seiko Sport Tech. Welcome to the 21st century. Seiko watches and clocks at your authorized dealer.
Next week will be week 13 of the NFL season. John and I will be in the Superdome in New Orleans for the Vikings-Saints clash. Philadelphia travels to RFK Stadium in Washington. The Bears at home against San Francisco. And then on doubleheader Sunday here on CBS, the Green Bay Packers against the Atlanta Falcons, or the New York Giants, who are right now shellacking the Eagles 10-0 against the Los Angeles Raiders. It all starts with NFL Today. Brent, Irv, Jimmy, and everybody back in New York in the NFL Today. 3rd and 7, be careful time, and Bud Grant elects to be careful and conservative. Across the 12-yard line goes Tony Galbraith, and now they'll punt from their own end zone and give the Pittsburgh Steelers excellent field position.
And really, you don't want to let the Pittsburgh Steelers get that momentum back. And you hear the fans rising to the occasion. They love that defense. They love their Steelers. Here, Coleman had trouble on his last punt. Donnie Shell almost blocked it after it was bobbled. I'll bet the Pittsburgh Steelers would be coming again.
Paul Scansey is back. There is Coleman and what he's done so far this afternoon. Lucky, of course, to get it away after the bobbled snap. Scansey, averaging about 9 yards a return, awaits at midfield. Coleman didn't get quite all of this one. Scansey will fair catch it at the 47-yard line. Good field position. We're tied up 7-all. Steelers in their first possession drove right down the field. Stout, his 9th touchdown pass, 3 yards to Cunningham, 7-0 with a point after, and then Dills. A 30-yard scoring strike to Sam McCullum, 7-all, and that's how the first quarter came to an end. Now let's check Jim Tunney and the penalty call on that punt by the Minnesota Vikings.
Ineligible man, number 50, downfield on the punt, penalty declined. First down.
First down in excellent field position for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, we are knotted up 7-all. The battle between the AFC and NFC Central Division leaders.
I'm Morgan mortgaged my house to get my first tug. Believe me, the Genie T needed plenty of work.
Good night, Skipper.
Today, I own 2 others just like her, because we give our customers a good, honest pull for the money, and that pays off. People who make Meisterbrow work the same way. These days, I can pick any beer I want. This tastes as good as Budweiser, and it doesn't cost as much. Gentlemen, the drinking lamp is lit.
Introducing Meisterbrow. Tastes as good as Budweiser at a better price.
Pontiac.
It's been called one of the most innovative American cars ever. Its unique Enduraflex body panels resist minor dents and will never rust. Introducing Pontiac Fiero, America's first mid-engine production car. Fiero, a brilliant example of Pontiac innovation in action. Fiero, only from Pontiac.
We build excitement. Pontiac.
College basketball returns to CBS Sports as Kansas takes on Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon and the rest of Houston's Phi Slama Jama crew Saturday on CBS Sports.
It has been that here in the Steel City ever since Chuck Noll took over. He inherited a 1-13 season, and then 6 years later, the Steelers on the way to winning 4 Super Bowls in the space of 6 years. 1st and 10, Abercrombie sweeps the left side. He just outran the blocking and goes out of bounds, chased out by Joey Browner, the rookie from USC. Despite the fact that the Vikings played so poorly last week, I want to tell you, because I looked at the tapes of the game, Joey Browner had himself a whale of a football game.
He definitely did. And, you know, you look at the Pittsburgh offense, and when you have Walter Abercrombie and Franco Harris in there, neither one an impressive blocker. In the old days, of course, Rocky Blyer used to be the great blocker, leading Franco Harris. But now, against the 3-4 defenses, that lead blocker on a defensive lineman isn't as important as it used to be.
Rocky Blyer, and before that, Frenchie Fuqua. Rocky stepped up in the booth during the last commercial timeout. He looks like he could still play. Franco, inside handoff, gets a block, breaks it to the 45, bowls his way down to the 40, and still about a yard shy of the first down yardage. John Swain, the man that Franco last ran over.
And it's amazing, talking to Franco Harris yesterday, how he felt the last few weeks not that productive for Franco, under 50 yards a game as you look at Franco and what the Steelers have done when he's rushed for over 100 yards. Franco said, you know, I feel I've been a little bit tentative. I've been thinking too much, wondering whether the block was going to be there. I have to assume it's going to be there and let my instincts take over. That's from a man who's played 12 years and is chasing Jimmy Brown.
The amazing thing about Franco is he said he still wants to improve, still thinks he needs to improve. Play action, Stout, he'll run it. Out of bounds at the 38-yard line. He may have just made the first down as he extended his body. Matt Blair and Scott Studwell chased him out of bounds. Cliff Stout from Youngstown State. His parents, his mom and dad, were here yesterday along with his wife watching the workout.
And there you look at his rushing statistics, leading rusher among quarterbacks. He picks up that first down.
The Battle of Tampa Bay and the Chicago Bears. Let's go back to New York. Here again is Brent.
Jim, it is an absolute monsoon down in Tampa. Look at that driving rain. And finally, the Bears score a touchdown. It's Matsui now from the 2-yard line. They get in, so they lead it 7-0. Back to Jim Kelly.
I guess, Brent, if the Bucks continue to lose and the Oilers continue to lose, when they do battle next week, it'll be the Solo Bowl. Each team with 1 win. Stout, airborne, got Abercrombie. Abercrombie to the 35, to the 30. Picks up 8 grueling yards, 2nd down and 2 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Willie Teal in there in the coverage that time. You saw a more maturing Cliff Stout. This is what he said was his biggest asset over the last 9 or 10 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The fact he doesn't go to the primary receiver now. He's able to look off and go to the 2nd or the 3rd receiver.
That's exactly what he does. Abercrombie just to the left of your screen, goes out in the flat, sets up. Stout had an idea he might go there. You see the lineman. He makes a good move right there, gets some blocks. Number 52, Webster, occupying number 55 inside. That's Scott Studwell. Good play.
From the 30 of the Vikings, 2nd and 2. Franco falls forward near the 28. He'll be about a half a yard shy of first down yardage. Dennis Johnson, 52 in his 4th year from USC, stacked him up, and there's a penalty flag down, holding against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And as you look at Franco Harris, 33 years old, 12 years in the league, there's only 2 other men in the NFL active running backs who are older. That's John Riggins, 34 years young for the Washington Redskins, and Newhouse from Dallas, 3 months older than Franco.
yards. Still 3 down.
You know, quarterback Cliff Stout got very defensive with number 32, Franco Harris, when talking about pursuing Jim Brown's record. I'm sure you heard Jim Brown's comments on the NFL today, where he doesn't think running out of bounds is exactly attributable to being the #1 rusher in NFL history. Franco does that to preserve his career. And Cliff Stout said, look, if Franco were just in here chasing records, he wouldn't be starting and he wouldn't have amassed over 800 yards. Penalty flag is down again. Looks like holding against the Steelers again, and Stout goes out of bounds again. Chased out by Randy Holloway in his 6th year out of Pittsburgh.
Good pressure by the defensive line from the Minnesota Vikings, especially Holloway. Ted Peterson, number 66, having problems with him.
Preliminary indication holding, and looks like it'll be against Ted Peterson, backing up the Steelers again. They had good field position. They had also picked up a first down at the 38. They had the ball down at the 30-yard line.
52, decline. 3rd down.
It's Mike Webster, the 10-year center. Guess that neck's bothering him a little bit.
Webster, of course, didn't practice yesterday, was in the hospital for a while for tests. He had a virus. But true to form, Mike Webster, All-Pro, is out there leading the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think he is really the leader of the offensive team of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That virus, a cervical inflammation. Sounds like it might be something on the neck bone, but it's actually an inflammation and an infection. 11:06 to go. 2nd quarter, tied 7-all, Steelers and Vikings. Stout, screen left to Franco. Got a convoy. Webster with a big block. Another penalty flag at the 45. Joey Browner, the man that made the hit on Franco Harris, but let's check the call again with Jim Tunney. Illegal man downfield. Back-to-back holding calls, and the Steelers are self-destructing in this drive.
And one of the things that the Steelers really don't want to do, they're not an offense that is refined like some of the offenses in the NFL. They're one that's growing, maturing. It's been a conservative offense while Cliff Stout finds his way in the NFL. And they don't have that big play capability. When Bradshaw was here, boy, he'd get that play, throw to Swan or Stallworth, and he'd get 20, 30, 40 yards back in no time. Stout hasn't done that. He's more of a patient type of quarterback. That's how he characterizes himself. I'm patient. I like the long, continuous drive.
He laughs when he talks about Bradshaw. He said, you know, Terry liked to try to score in 2 or 3 plays. Right. He said, I need a long, sustained drive.
Ineligible lineman, number 52.
And that long sustained scoring drive that Stout alludes to, that fits more in the philosophy of Pittsburgh coach Chuck Noll. He likes to take it and kind of ram the ball down your throat. He feels that if you have a drive like that, you do it with a running game, eventually you're simply going to wear down and wear out the defense of the opposition.
And Chuck Noll is also a man who prides himself in having one of the best conditioned teams in the NFL, and traditionally he has.
Well, after taking the ball down to the 30 of the Vikings, Minnesota's defense stiffened, but more importantly, the Steelers self-destructed. Back-to-back holding calls and an illegal man downfield, and Colquitt will line drive it into the end zone, and the Vikings come away cleanly. They'll start 1st and 10 from their own 20-yard line. So the Vikings get a break. Pittsburgh with a couple of penalties. And now with 10:49 left to go and thus far a scoreless 2nd quarter, the AFC and the NFC Central leaders square at 7.
People moving into a newly built home often get a lower rate on their homeowner's insurance. But what of an older home that needs a little work? Well, the way the Travelers figures it, when people do some renovation or take care of their property, insurance companies should also recognize that with a lower rate. To see if you qualify, call an independent Travelers agent. Maybe we can save you money at a time when you need it most.
From Pontiac comes the one-of-a-kind 84 Firebird Trans Am. You can order it with aerodynamic ground effects, a high-output 5-liter V8, high-tech turbo wheels, and a close-ratio 5-speed. And knowing you probably will. Trans Am, only from Pontiac.
We build excitement, Pontiac.
We're back at Pittsburgh, square at 7. McCullum wide to the left side. Leo Lewis, top of your screen. Dills sets the Vikings down. Motion by Casper to the bottom. Pitch back. A fumble football. The Vikings got it back. Off the artificial surface, Minnesota gets a break. Galbraith dribbles to about the 23. Looked like Jim Huff, 51, fell on the football in his 6th year out of Utah. Galbraith, as we said, had 2 fumbles last week against the Green Bay Packers and lost them both.
And before that, he hadn't fumbled in 60 attempts. But one of the big problems last week against Green Bay, they fumbled 7 times in the first half.
10-15 and counting in a thus far scoreless second quarter from Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium. 2nd and 7 Vikings. Jarvis Redwine ran the wrong way and gets stacked up at the 15-yard line. Donnie Shell came crashing through. And then a host of Pittsburgh Steelers in pursuit. I got something for you.
Yes. This telecast, folks, I'd like to tell you, is presented by the authority of the National Football League and is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent, that is, of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the National Football League is prohibited. Thank you, Jim Kelly.
That last carry, by the way, Doc, by Jarvis Redwine was his first of the season. Passing situation for the Vikings. Slot formation to the left side. Leo Lewis, top of the screen. Steve Dills, and here comes Pittsburgh. Almost intercepted by number 57, Mike Merriweather, in the nickel defense in his 2nd year out of the Pacific. Batted the ball up in a punting situation for the Vikings.
Pittsburgh lives by the pressure defense. They came into this game with 21 interceptions. They almost got another one then. They had 41 sacks. They got to Dills with some pressure. They didn't sack him. They had 13 fumble recoveries. That's how Pittsburgh plays defense, aggressive with pressure.
Steelers should come out of this with pretty good field position again. Skansky. And what he has done so far in the season, averaging about 9 yards a return. This time Coleman hangs on. And he bangs a high but a wobbly kick. Skansky at the 50, and down he goes. Great special teams play by number 39. That is Carl Lee, the rookie out of Marshall. And that, in talking to some of the Vikings, as you know, Doc, was what Minnesota thought they had to do. They needed the special teams to try to pick up some of the intensity. Somebody had to make some kind of a big play. We are tied 7-all, 9:08 to go in the second quarter. The battle between the AFC and the NFC Central Division leaders.
Pontiac has created a driver's car the whole family can enjoy. Pontiac 6000. Enjoy the styling. Enjoy the room. Enjoy the handling. Pontiac 6000. Enjoy. The front-wheel drive 6000. Only from Pontiac.
We build excitement. Pontiac.
Welcome to today's Quality Audit Review.
Every morning, special teams of General Motors people meet to talk about the cars they built the day before. They're called Quality Audit Teams, and their involvement has given GM a better way to deliver the quality you want.
We've got a fine car here. Great job, folks.
When they're through, they take their knowledge back to the line. Nobody sweats the details like GM.
Monday and Tuesday, November 28th and 29th.
Hello, boys.
It's Kenny Rogers, Linda Evans, and Bruce Boxleitner in The Gambler. The adventure continues.
From midfield, 1st and 10 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Stout. Incomplete at about the 32-yard line, looking for Calvin Sweeney. Now, we talked to him yesterday at the practice, and we asked, do you have a hero, an idol maybe in the National Football League, somebody that you always looked up to? And he said, well, one of them was Paul Warfield. Of course, the Browns just down the turnpike in Cleveland.
Yes, of course. And Calvin Sweeney said he admired the way Paul Warfield would gracefully go up and catch the ball. He also had another hero, an Otto Stowe. Very few people know him, a fine receiver for the Miami Dolphins.
Asked Calvin what his strength is as a wide receiver. He said he comes back to the ball, tries to help the quarterback out. Slot to the left side for Stout, 2nd and 10. Franco gets a block, tries to turn the corner, slithers out at about the 46-yard line, picks up 4, brings up 3rd and 6. Freddie McNeil, the veteran out of UCLA, chased him out of bounds. How about the Bears in Tampa Bay in that deluge down in Tampa Bay? Here again is Brent Musburger.
Jim, it's the Bears again, and this time in the monsoon, it is Walter Payton. And with this run, he surpasses 1,000 yards on the season. Bears lead it by 14-0. Back to Jim.
Walter Payton 9 years in the National Football League, had 2,565 yards, and was in 4th place behind Jim Brown, behind Franco Harris, behind O.J. Simpson, and then number 34, Walter Payton. Bears up big over the Bucs. It'll be a long afternoon for John McKay down in Tampa Bay. Been a long season. 3rd and 6. Abercrombie cuts it back. Had blocking to the outside, Doc. Cut it back inside. Fumbled the football, but I believe after the whistle had blown.
He obviously felt he couldn't get outside, that the pursuit was too great. Tried to cut back against the grain. Coughed up the ball, but I believe you're right, Jim. Pittsburgh.
Interesting play call on 3rd and 6. You run the power sweep to the left side.
And we have a Pittsburgh Steeler down on the field. It's Walter Abercrombie. Walter Abercrombie is down on the field. He's hurt.
Well, in that NFC East, St. Louis Cardinals with a record of 4-6-1. Neil O'Donoghue has added another field goal. And the Cardinals now up over the Chargers. Boy, the Chargers up and down depending on what week. They upset the Cowboys a week ago. And, of course, on Thanksgiving Day, we've got a football feast, Doc. It all starts with the NFL today. Hey, Roy Green for the Cardinals last week, 4 touchdown passes in the first half.
I was just going to say, St. Louis can strike through the air. Neil Lomax, 4 touchdown passes, all to Roy Green last week. They're ahead again this week. And I think that's the way San Diego beat Dallas last week. Eddie Luther had 340 yards passing, so Thanksgiving Day should be a good one.
Cowboys, of course, right now are 9-2 in that NFC East, tied with the Washington Redskins. They're also at 9-2. And the Cowboys, I think, might have their hands full with Kansas City down in Dallas this afternoon. Bill Kenny and the Chiefs. John Malkovich has done quite a job with Kansas City, and they've got a pretty good air game. You're looking at Walter Abercrombie, number 34, second year out of Baylor. And, of course, he would be a big loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Around the NFL today, the Green Bay Packers up by 7. Keep in mind the Packers tied with the Vikings at 6-5 for the top spot in the NFC Central. And the Lions, if they can win that game, well, they've got designs on the division title as well.
Sure, if the Lions win that game and Minnesota should lose here, we'd have a 3-way tie in the NFC Central. Walter Abercrombie walking off the field.
And the Steelers will punt it away. Craig Colquitt is back deep. Vikings have 3 back deep on the punt return. Rufus Bess, along with Ricky Bell and Joey Brown. Colquitt's last punt went out of bounds at the 4-yard line. Goes to the near sideline again, only this time he shanks it off the side of the foot, and the Vikings get a break. Browner comes out to help the official with the spot. Official didn't need the help. It's at the 35-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Minnesota Vikings, who've dodged a couple of bullets here. They've been playing defense backed up in their own half of the field, but the Steelers unable to punch it in.
Colquitt was going for the corner, but he obviously had in his mind that they had 3 men back there, and he had to be precise. Here it just goes off the side of the field. He's disgusted. We have a tie game here. Minnesota, Pittsburgh tied at 7. We'll be back in a moment.
I need it tomorrow. I don't care what it costs.
I need it tomorrow.
Business people under pressure to get urgent packages fast.
I don't care what it costs.
Often act without thinking.
I need it tomorrow.
But now, UPS Next Day Air gets it here in the morning for about half the cost. Just think, up to 50% less than the competition.
Sure, I need it tomorrow. But I do care what it costs. Send it UPS Next Day Air.
UPS Next Day Air. We save you money from the ground up. Now with morning delivery.
We asked business travelers if they would design a business airline. Too little luggage space was replaced by room for 2 carry-on bags each. Out went typical airline crew. And so every seat could be bigger, with no middle seats. Out went every economy seat, and some people. Introducing Midway Metrolink to Chicago, the airline created for business travel by business travelers for less than the price of coach.
Boy, you talk about the grand old man of the National Football League. There is some gentleman, Art Rooney. You talk about family. He has a huge family, and, of course, most of his sons are involved in the Steeler operation, but the team is his family as well. Handoff inside, goes to Ricky Young, slithers forward to about the 35-yard line. And you can relate to that family atmosphere, Doc, because you played here in Pittsburgh.
Exactly, and there's no owner like Mr. Rooney. I mean, the kind of a guy who, when you're on the plane, coming back from a game will take the time to sit down next to you and to ask you how your family is, how you're feeling. He's a real human being and the finest sportsman in this country, Mr. Art Rooney.
It's so interesting to watch the Steelers come out of the tunnel for practice. Mr. Rooney is there to shake hands and greet them and ask them about their family. And it's a father-son relationship. It just continues on. He even comes up to the booth at halftime and asks Doc if we're okay. Roll out by Steve Dills. Comes back the other way. Casper's got it. Got two blockers in front of him. Close to first down yardage. Dave Casper wearing number 44. Mel Blount, 14-year veteran out of Southern. Robin Cole racked him down.
Of course, Dave Casper, gotten from Houston along with Archie Manning about 8 weeks ago. 9 receptions coming in for 121 yards. 10 years out of Notre Dame, Dave Casper. First down, Minnesota Vikings.
Tied at 7. We've got 7 minutes and 50 seconds. 7:50 left to go in this second quarter. Tony Galbraith again. Sandwiched down again. Steeler defensive front now starting to assume control. You can see the defensive rankings and the job facing the Minnesota Vikings. Pittsburgh comes in second in the National Football League in total defense, fourth against the rush, second against the pass. And if you want to go down the defensive stats of the Steelers, it reads like a Pittsburgh phone book. 2nd and 9. Dills digs in for Minnesota. His knee did not go down. Dills now does at the 43. Keith Gary and Keith Willis. Willis with the pressure, Gary with the tackle. We talked about the Steeler defense. They lead the National Football League in fewest points allowed. They lead the NFL in fewest first downs allowed. They lead the NFL in interceptions with 23. They're second in total defense, second in passing yards, second in touchdowns allowed, and it just goes on and on, Doc.
On and on. And Keith Willis, there you see the record. Set Steelers quarterback sack record with 13. He's tied for second in the NFL with Mark Gastineau behind Doug Betters from Miami.
3rd and 8 for Dills. From the 44 of the Vikings, we are tied 7-all. Pittsburgh shows blitz, and they're coming. Vikings read it well. McCullum got it. First down. Great catch by Sam McCullum over Mel Blount. It was McCullum who beat Blount on the touchdown pass, and Dills read that blitz perfectly.
And a nice touch by Steve Dills. He throws it up in a way where you have to throw it. I thought Mel Blount might have fallen asleep for a slight second. He was running with McCullum, who doesn't have the speed he used to have. The ball is perfectly thrown over the top, over the outside. McCullum keeps his feet in bounds. First down, big play, Minnesota Vikings.
Credit that offensive front 5 of the Vikings. Steve Riley, Jimmy Huff, Dennis Swilley, Wes Hamilton, and Tim Irvin. They did some job picking up the blitz of the Steelers. McCullum is carving out a career here this afternoon against Mel Blount from the 28. 1st and 10 for the Minnesota Vikings, and Minnesota takes their second time out of the first half. We've got 6:25 to go, and we are knotted up 7-all. Hey, the Cardinals have caught fire against the Chargers. Neil Lomax, his second touchdown pass of the day. This one a 10-yarder to Doug Marsh. St. Louis leads San Diego 24-0.
Whew, that's a surprise. Neil Lomax is hot. 4 touchdowns last week, a couple today. Beware Dallas Cowboys, Everson Walls and company on Thanksgiving Day.
And coming up the day after Thanksgiving as our football feast continues, we've got Alabama and Boston College. Ray Perkins in his first year down there as head coach of the Crimson Tide. Boston College, they've got a great quarterback in Doug Flutie.
Doug Flutie, he's got magic up there in Boston with the Eddie LeBaron look-alike Flutie. And of course, there's a big one next Saturday, Nebraska. Best team in the country takes on Oklahoma, Arizona versus Arizona State, Vanderbilt versus Tennessee.
And, of course, Brent Musburger, Ara Parsegian, and Pat O'Brien in the NCAA today. I'm not sure that Nebraska couldn't beat a couple of teams in the NFL. I saw what they did to Penn State, and they've just been running up humongous numbers. Tom Osborne's best team ever. Dills, bootleg, wide open. Brewer, the tight end. Inside the 10 in the pursuit was Donnie Shell. Big play time for the Vikings.
The reason it worked because Steve Dills has been running some misdirection plays, some traps. It's been working with Galbraith. That time, he faked misdirection. He took his time. Take a look again, right here. See the misdirection right there with Galbraith? He fakes it. The line goes that way. He sets up, takes his time. Brewer slides across the middle against the direction. Makes the catch. Here he tries to put a fake on Donnie Shell. Forget it. Goes down, doesn't get any extra yards.
First and goal, Vikings. Quick count by Dills. Excellent pursuit by the Steelers. Ricky Young trapped down from behind. You know, we talked about it at the top of the telecast, John. Gone the steel curtain defense of Pittsburgh. The L.C. Greenwoods, the Mean Joe Greens, replaced by a much quicker and more agile front four.
Speed is the difference in this defensive team. Also a feeling of camaraderie. Watch it again. Watch the pursuit of this defense. Great speed. Robin Cole fighting off some blocks. Young trying to get outside. Can't do it. Everyone on him. Merriweather, number 57 from the backside.
Pitch back to Galbraith again. This time he gets back to the original line of scrimmage. Robin Cole, in his 7th year out of New Mexico, chops him down. 3rd and goal for the Minnesota Vikings.
With the speed of the Pittsburgh defense, I don't see how you're going to run the ball in. You have to play action pass or throw it into the end zone. Take your shot for a touchdown.
Vikings on the verge of taking the lead. If they can punch it in for a touchdown, of course, they would settle for a field goal here because they played really most of the second quarter backed up deep in their own territory and dodged a couple of Pittsburgh bullets. Steelers go with 5 defensive backs. They're in their nickel defense, anticipating pass. Casper wide to the right side. Leo Lewis and McCullum motion top of the screen now. That is Mike Jones, the rookie. Dills unloads. Galbraith has it. Down at the 5 as helmets collide right there. And we'll see Benny Ricardo.
Donnie Shell put a hit on him that you wouldn't believe. You saw him just stop cold. Otherwise, he might have had some momentum to get close to the goal line. Shell put the big hit on him, all-pro safety in his 10th year.
Out of the hold of Steve Dills, Benny Ricardo, he's been perfect between the 20 and the 29. Dills will spot it down at about the 13-yard line, so a 23-yard try for Benny Ricardo, who's 19 of 23 in the field goal department. Bad snap. Dills pulled it down, and it was no good. So the bad snap creating some problems on the specialty team, and the Steelers have dodged a bullet.
And Bud Grant, the Minnesota Vikings can't afford things like that. They were gaining some momentum, a good drive. You mentioned it before. They overcame bad field position. That time a bad snap. They missed a field goal. Pittsburgh gets the ball back on their 20.
What in the world is going on with the Cardinals? 31-0. Lomax runs it in from 1 yard out. 31-0. Cardinals on top over the Chargers. The Colts, they are trailing Miami 17-0. 1st and 10, Steelers from their own 20. Inside handoff is Frank Pollard. Pollard, of course, replacing having had his bell rung Walter Abercrombie, and Dennis Johnson stacks him up. The Baltimore Colts and the Dolphins down in the Orange Bowl, tough place to play. Miami has 2 touchdowns and a field goal and a 17-0 lead. Of course, Miami 7-4, tied with Buffalo 7-4 for the top spot in the AFC East. And how about the Patriots? Just a game behind at 6-5, 20-0. The Cleveland Browns on top up in Foxborough. All the scores and highlights. And a look at the division races with Brent and Irv at halftime. Is it too early for Brent to explain the tiebreakers?
Right.
Stout to Franco, who manages to hang on. The ball was thrown down around his knees back at the 20-yard line, and that was the original line of scrimmage. So the Steelers now look at 3rd and 10.
And you get a sense that the Minnesota Vikings defense is picking up the intensity level. They felt that they had to, and Charlie Johnson and company told me this, Studwell, that they had to get the ball back to give their offense more opportunities. Here, Stout back. Franco's coming out, makes a good catch, and then he's hit. Right there.
You know, John, except for the one long incompletion to Calvin Sweeney, they have stayed mostly with the swing passes on the sidelines. They've got to throw deep and open up again. Incomplete, almost intercepted up near the 30, looking for Benny Cunningham, the tight end. He would have been very close to first down yardage had he crossed the 30 with the football, but Willie Teal knocked it loose, and the Vikings defense done their job.
Stout said he would like to open it up more than he has been over this season. But he said, you know what? There's a man on the sidelines. Although I call most of the plays, if it doesn't work, I'm going to have to face Chuck Noll when I head to the sidelines.
Rufus Bess back deep. He awaits at about the 40-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. Craig Colquitt in his 5th year out of Tennessee. Rufus Best unexplicably will watch it hit and take a tremendous bounce. That's going to cost him 25 yards. Why he didn't come up and signal for the fair catch. It rolls dead at the 23. So another break in the specialty teams for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And Robin Sedline almost got through to block that. Why the fair catch wasn't made, I don't know. It might have thought it was too dangerous, but it did cost the Minnesota Vikings good field position.
Well, the last time he let it rolled out of bounds at the 4-yard line. This time it cost him about 23 yards. So it's 1st and 10 for the Vikings as we approach the 2-minute warning. Cincinnati hammering Houston 31-3. We talked about the Browns and what they were doing to New England. The Patriots in danger of falling 6-6. Miami, of course, they're looking to go 8-4. They're tied with Buffalo right now. And again, Brett Nerve will have all the scores and highlights at halftime. Dills. Draw play goes to Tony Galbraith. He breaks it down to about the 27-yard line before Gary Dunn in his 7th year out of Miami of Florida wrestled him down. So we're at the 2-minute warning. The Pittsburgh Steelers took their first possession. Cliff Stout, a 3-yard scoring strike to Benny Cunningham, 7-0. But then the Vikings answered that. Steve Dills, 30 yards to Sam McCullum, and we are still tied 7-all.
Museums are special places. They're really storehouses for all the knowledge man has collected. But they don't tell us much about what we haven't learned. Some children have an eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa. Thousands of other people have RP and don't even know it. Night blindness and tunnel vision are often the symptoms. Total loss of sight is often the result. There's no known cure for RP, but there is hope. Thanks to RP Foundation Fighting Blindness, researchers are looking for answers to the cause, prevention, and treatment of RP, and self-help groups and referral services are operating around the country, all supported by RP Foundation Fighting Blindness. Hopefully, someday children won't have to fit a lifetime of seeing into a few short years. For more information, call RP Foundation Fighting Blindness at 800-638-5682. They're working toward the day RP won't leave anyone in the dark.
The preceding announcement brought to you by the National Football League. Jim Kelly and John Dockery, welcome back to Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium. 7-all, the Steelers and the Vikings. You see the time left. Vikings with 1 timeout remaining. It says on the scoreboard. I thought they used 2. Dills. Galbraith. First down, Minnesota up near the 35-yard line. Taves in his 11th year out of California in pursuit, but anytime you get that back one-on-one with a linebacker, unless the linebacker happens to be Jack Lambert, in pretty good shape.
And there's Jack Lambert. There's the man. Take a look at it again. A very safe, high-percentage play. Dills rolls out. Galbraith comes out of the backfield. We'll take a look
as
live.
You were about to describe. Interesting play call on 1st and 10 from the 34. You go to the hurry-up offense. Jack Lambert in pursuit. You saw that tight shot of Jack Lambert. You see the way he had his forearms taped up? We talked to him in the Steeler locker room yesterday. He said he still enjoys the physical part of football. It's still fun. Look at a couple of billy clubs out there with all that tape and padding.
And you asked Jack Lambert, is it difficult to get motivated to play after this many years? He said, no. As long as we're winning, I still love to do it. And you see that big smile. He's a man of few words, but when he speaks, people listen.
Well, we talked about, that's exactly right. That's what Cliff Stout says. He said Jack Lambert is exactly like E.F. Hutton here in Pittsburgh. In fact, when the Pittsburgh fans were booing Stout after the Tampa Bay game, Lambert came out in the Pittsburgh papers and blasted the fans. The next game, Cliff Stout came trotting out, got a standing ovation. So he is indeed like E.F. Hutton.
Well, he's a throwback to those old Pittsburgh Steelers defenses, the Joe Greens, the L.C. Greenwoods. Lambert, one of the few remaining members. Of course, Donnie Shell and Mel Blount are still there.
St. Louis has scored again. 37-0. The Cardinals on top over the Chargers. And don't forget, on Thanksgiving Day, we've got the Cardinals and the Cowboys from Texas Stadium, 3:30 Eastern time. And it all starts with the NFL today with Brent, Irv, Jimmy the Greek, Phyllis, Charlesy. Anybody else? Dills incomplete to a wide open Steve Jordan. 2nd year out of Brown. That looks like a replay of their game last week. It wasn't Dill's fault that they fell behind 19-0. He had so many passes dropped, and Bud Grant said it was not Steve Dill's fault.
It wasn't Steve Dill. He actually had a pretty good game. One of the big problems the Minnesota Vikings have had this year is the loss of Joe Sensor. Of course, having so many great years, Sensor was a big part of their offense. He's no longer here. That causes problems.
Better be careful. Joe Sensor's got a radio show up in Minnesota. 3rd and 6. Dills almost intercepted at the 42-yard line. Had the ball been thrown up toward the receiver, Donnie Shell would have had his 5th interception of the season.
Incredible pressure by the 2 young designated pass rushers from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 93, Keith Willis. Number 92, Keith Gary, coming from opposite sides, getting to Dills just as he threw that ball.
So with 1:13 left to go, the Vikings now will punt it away. Scansey is back deep. Coleman to do the punting, and the Steelers will have a chance to get on the board. High, beautiful kick by Coleman. Back Scansey up to the 13. Breaks a tackle. Looks for the wall. That is a great defensive play. Because number 39 for the Minnesota Vikings, Carl Lee, was the first man down there. Scansey got away from him. Lee didn't stay down on the ground. He got back up with intensity and chased the play down from behind. Also, a penalty flag is down, and the Steelers are walking back toward the tunnel and toward their own end zone. While we're watching Jim Tunney, you talk about that 37-0 Cardinal game against the Chargers and the fact we've got St. Louis coming up against Dallas on Thanksgiving. Neil Lomax has accounted for 4 of the Cardinal touchdowns, 2 by running and 2 by passing. So
during the run back, number 31. Half the distance of the goal line, first down.
Brent's highlight reel at halftime may consist of the Neil Lomax show. 59 ticks left on the clock. Steelers have 2 timeouts left, and I was right. The Vikings have just 1. Be careful time, of course, for the Steelers here. I would expect Chuck Noll to keep it very conservative, and Frank Pollard will keep it inside the 13. Fumbles the football, and the Vikings say they've got it. Doug Martin, number 79, the man that fell on the football. Just as we say, it's be careful time, and Chuck Noll wants to play conservative. The Vikings defense comes up with a big play.
Take a look at number 30, Frank Pollard. Finds a hole, turns upfield, is hit by a couple of balls, just pops out. Vikings come up with it right there. Big break for the Minnesota Vikings. Is still bouncing around. Number 79, Doug Martin, comes in to make the recovery and give the Vikings great field position right before the halftime.
Randy Holloway, 75, 6th year out of Pittsburgh, the man that caused that fumble. Keep in mind now, the Vikings only have 1 timeout. They've got 51 seconds, and they've got it at the 13-yard line of the Pittsburgh Steelers. McCullum, he has the touchdown catch at 30 yards, wide to the left side. Dills sets the Vikings down. Motion by Ricky Young, near side. Dills up top. Fires left corner of the end zone. McCullum out of bounds.
Very strange-looking play. It looked like Woods let McCullum go. For some reason, Mel Blount was playing the short zone. Had that ball been thrown a little sooner, on a little more of a line, it was a definite touchdown. Take another look from the end zone. Dills back to pass, gets pretty good protection, throws the ball a little too high, a little too far. McCullum can't come down inbounds, but you see him behind Mel Blount. 1 foot in, 1 foot out, no touchdown.
Obviously, Bud Grant and the Minnesota coaches going to work on Mel Blount. It's been very successful. 45 seconds. Play action, look out, all alone. Tony Galbraith inside the 10, down to about the 6. Dills just got rid of the ball because barreling in there, Edmund Nelson, 2nd year out of Auburn. 6'3", 270. I don't think he had to see him. He could feel him breathing.
Exactly. That was action, and that was act and react. I mean, that was instant. Dills just got the ball off in time, saved a loss. Now it's 3rd and about 4.
19 seconds left. Time running down, and now the Vikings, well, the Steelers take a timeout.
You have to wonder about that call. Why in the world would the Pittsburgh Steelers take a timeout unless they were confused on defense and wanted to talk it over?
Steve Dills goes over and will confer with Bud Grant. Blount, of course, in his 17th season with the Minnesota Vikings. Third among active NFL coaches in victories with 159. What a record he's put together, too, in Minnesota. 12 times in those 17 seasons in the playoffs, 3 NFC Central Division championships, 1 NFL championship. He's had the Vikings in the Super Bowl 4 times.
And, Jim, the situation is this. It's 3rd down and 7. Steve Dills, when he comes back onto the field, will face the all-out pass rush from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Willis will be in there. Gary will be in there. They'll play man-to-man, double the outside receivers. Steve Dills' best chance here is to roll out, maybe find one of his backs out of the backfield or his tight end.
Next week, doubleheader Sunday here on CBS Sports. John and I will be at the Superdome in New Orleans. The Saints and the Vikings. RFK Stadium in Washington plays host to the Eagles. And San Francisco travels to Chicago. Then, on our doubleheader Sunday, Green Bay at Atlanta or the Giants and the Raiders. Check your local listings. It all starts with the NFL Today and Brett Musburger. 15 seconds left to go. The Vikings have 1 timeout. They look now at 3rd and 4. Dills. Incomplete. Intercepted. Mel Blount atones for the earlier touchdown toss to Sam McCullum.
Great play by Mel Blount. They just try to run the slant in, the quick slant in on Mel Blount. As I said, it was man-to-man defense, and you see he leads the Steelers in career interceptions. Take a look again. The right side of your screen, Mel Blount. Not only does he break it up, but he makes a great interception and takes away the field goal right there. See Mel leaning in here with his right hand, pulls it in for the interception.
That's his 56th career interception. It ties him with Pat Fisher and Lem Barney. The all-time list. Well, the last time the Steelers had the football, we said they'd be conservative. Pollard coughed it up. But the Steelers have dodged another bullet. 11 seconds left to go in this first half. It has been a scoreless second quarter. Franco will hang on to the football. And barring a penalty, that will be the final play of the first half. In the grasp of Freddie McNeil. Well, 30 minutes here in sold-out Three Rivers Stadium ends with a 7-7 deadlock between 2 teams that are deadlocked atop their respective Central Division. The Pittsburgh Steelers, with a record of 9-2 atop the AFC Central, a 3-game lead over the Cleveland Browns, and the Minnesota Vikings, 6-5, tied with the Green Bay Packers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, on their first possession, punched it on in. Stout, his 9th scoring strike of the season, 3 yards to Benny Cunningham. And a point after by Anderson, 7-0 Pittsburgh. But the Vikings came right back on a scoring drive of their own. They went 79 yards in 11 plays. And that was something Bud Grant was concerned about, whether or not the Vikings could indeed go 80 yards if they had to score against the Pittsburgh defense. Dills, a 30-yard scoring strike to Sam McCullum. We were tied 7-all in the first quarter, and that's the way the first half wound up after the 56th career interception by Mel Blount, as the Steelers were able to keep the Vikings off the scoreboard twice. So, halftime coming up with Brennan Irv back in New York. We've got a 7-7 tie here at Three Rivers. That's the end of the first half. Brent's next.
11:05 p.m. The Hospital for Special Surgery, New York. And where are the surgeons? Watching television. Not just any television. A Sony with a remarkable Trinitron system. For a picture that's critically focused, critically lifelike. Maybe that's why Sony won an Emmy for its picture. Something no other TV could have done. Not if their life depended on it.
Really tea and burgers go nice. Really tea and tacos go nice. Chicken goes nice. Salads go nice with Riunite on ice.
Pure and natural Riunite is the world's best-loved imported wine. And now there's new Riunite Doro. It's delicious.
Everything's nice with Riunite on ice. Riunite, Riunite.
Back in 1979, I did a commercial that showed my crew repairing this street here in Oklahoma City. We used a fabric underliner developed by Phillips Petroleum that helped streets last longer. And did it work? Absolutely. This street hasn't needed a single repair since then. It's nice to know you can fix something and have it stay fixed, especially when it saves you tax dollars.
year after year.
Fine products for you and your car from Phillips Petroleum, the performance company.
Spend your Thanksgiving holidays with CBS Sports. We'll have a full menu of great games, starting with the NFL on Thanksgiving Day. The St. Louis Cardinals take on the Dallas Cowboys. Friday, college football takes center stage as Alabama meets Boston College. Saturday, our coverage of college basketball tips off with Kansas against Houston, followed by a college football classic, Nebraska and Oklahoma. And on Sunday, an NFL doubleheader. All here Thanksgiving Day through the weekend on CBS Sports.
Welcome back to New York. I'm Brent Musburger with Irv Cross. And, of course, those of you in Pittsburgh are vitally interested in the future of quarterback Terry Bradshaw, who revealed on the NFL today that he's not coming back this year. Irv, were you surprised by that?
I was surprised. I thought he might have a chance to come back. I knew he was throwing the ball in practice. Even though he wasn't throwing it deep, he was throwing it on a regular basis, but he's out.
Minnesota playing a tough game today, and, of course, they've got to win because the Packers are in control of Detroit right now. But let's take you to the scoreboard and get you up to date with everything that's going on at the moment. You can see that Jimmy the Greek's New York Giants are in control of Irv Cross's Philadelphia Eagles. So, Irv, take us to the highlights and get us up to date.
It really hurts. The Liberty Bell is trying to find something to cheer in the first half. Really didn't see much. Watch this. Ron Jaworski going back to pass. Lawrence Taylor eats him up with a sack. Jaworski trying to get his offense going, elects to go to the air, but this pass is picked off by Mark Haynes, who scrambles along the left sideline for the Giants, setting up a scoring opportunity for his club. And, of course, Parcells has to be happy with that, Brent, because his team has really struggled all year long. Butch Woolfolk, the speedster out of Michigan, takes this handoff over his right end and scrambles 11 yards for a touchdown. The story all day has again been Giant defense. Joe Pisarcik comes in replacing Jaworski because he had a bad first half. Same thing happens. Harry Carson sacks in.
I can't remember Dick Vermeil taking Jaws out.
No, he would never take him out. But Marion Campbell represents a new regime.
All right. Cool. We got a lot of schizophrenic football teams around the league. I mean, the Green Bay Packers, you can't figure them out. You can't figure the St. Louis Cardinals out. Look at what they're doing to San Diego. 37-7. No, Roy Green has not caught any touchdown passes for the Cardinals, but Lomax has thrown to and run in twice himself. They're in control there. Cincinnati just feasts on Houston. It is 38-3. Quarterback Kenny Anderson having his finest day of the season so far. 3 touchdown passes, 2 to tight end Dan Ross, and 1 a 45-yarder to Chris Collinsworth. And, of course, Chicago and Tampa Bay. They are playing in a monsoon down in Tampa right now, and the Bears lead it. You probably saw our update. Walter Payton has scored and passed 1,000 yards again in rushing for the year. Miami is all over Baltimore. 24-0 at the half. Dan Marino, who did not throw a touchdown pass, at least according to the officials last week, he tossed an 85-yarder to young Mark Duper, and the Dolphins now are dominating the Colts down in Miami. Cleveland doing a good defensive job on the Patriots and Steve Grogan, who limped to the sidelines. He was injured. Chip Banks has intercepted a pass and taken it in for a Cleveland touchdown already in that game. The Raiders leading Buffalo 10-3. The story there is quarterback Joe Ferguson. He suffered a concussion. He left the field in the first half. It is doubtful he will play for the Bills after the intermission. Green Bay and Detroit, many of you are watching this game, and you know that the Packers are in control. And, of course, if Minnesota should lose, they'd get a game up. This was a key turning point early. Detroit couldn't get the punt off, Irv. Now, watch the ball on the sideline. I swear the man who rolled out of bounds with that ball had it with him, so he wouldn't have had control, and Detroit should have had it back. Well, what do I know about officiating? This is a great catch by John Jefferson. Up high from Lynn Dickey. He's got superb concentration, doesn't he, Irv?
Oh, great. You know, the ruling on that play was that the man did step out of bounds on the 18-yard line, but Green Bay retained possession. Wasn't Detroit's fault.
Oh, I'll tell you, that was some call. All right, Minnesota and the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, they are tied at 7. They are at the half. And, Irv, I want you to tell us about Warren Moon, that young Canadian quarterback. We'll have that story when we continue on CBS after these messages from your local stations.
There is a special feeling in Oldsmobile.
What makes the new Olds Forenza a whole lot of fun to drive? A whole lot of things. Forenza offers front-wheel drive, an available 5-speed and overhead cam engine, and handling as sporty as its name. But what makes this fun-to-drive car special is that it's an Oldsmobile. So it's not only fun to drive, it's fun to arrive.
There is a special feel in an Oldsmobile.
When Valvoline announced its gold medal sale with special prices on Valvoline motor oil, we knew it'd be popular, but we didn't know it'd be like this.
I can't believe it's all gone.
Getting a top-quality motor oil that won a gold medal for lubricating excellence at a money-saving offer is too good to pass up.
I can't believe it's all gone.
Better get yours now while you can. Look for Valvoline on sale here during the gold medal sale.
This is the place for the real taste of beer. Look around, Pabst is the place. There's just no doubt about it.
Pabst isn't beer drinking beer. I feel qualified to say that.
Pabst is the place. Your good friends all around you for the real taste of beer and all the good times you have here.
This is one place they still know how to brew beer.
For the real taste of beer, Pabst is the place.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
As you know, last spring's NFL draft was a vintage year for quarterbacks. No less than 6 were drafted in the first round. This year's crop does not shape up to be quite as good. We've got 3 who could go on the first round. Steve Young of BYU, Boomer Esiason of Maryland, Jeff Hostetler of West Virginia. So a few NFL teams are licking their chops over a hot quarterback prospect who has plenty of pro experience in another country. After 5 years of playing to the music of old Canada, he may soon be marching home to the tune of Stars and Stripes Forever.
Warren Moon has been living the All-American dream. First, he led his college team, the Washington Huskies, to a Rose Bowl victory. Then it was on to the pros, where he helped take his team to 5 championships in his first 5 seasons. Never heard of him? There's a reason. He's been north of the border.
I figured Canada was best suited for my style. As a rookie in the National Football League, you usually have to sit around for 3 or 4 years before you get an opportunity to play unless someone gets hurt.
Moon's Eskimo contract has expired, and because no NFL team drafted him out of college, he is free to sign with any team or league he desires. The Eskimos are hoping the fact that he owns a profitable business in town will help convince him to stay.
Naturally, we're interested in keeping him. We're going to do everything we can to do that.
If the right opportunity came about for me in the National Football League, I would certainly jump at it.
With its wide-open offenses, success came easily to Moon in the CFL. But that doesn't guarantee the transition to the NFL will be easy, as a famous former CFL player points out.
You cannot just take and bring your physical talents down to the National Football League and hope to do well. I know how great a player Warren Moon is, but the National Football League is a whole different world, and you have to really be in it to appreciate that.
The Moons don't live year-round in Edmonton. Seattle is their off-season home, and that's where they're packing to go this past week. Moon wants to play and live in the same town, so you'd think the Seahawks would have a leg up on signing him. But the emergence of Dave Krieg as quarterback has dampened Moon's enthusiasm.
I really have to look at the way he played the rest of the year, and Seattle would have to look at the way he played the rest of the year to even see if they need a quarterback.
A lot of teams desperately need a quarterback. The Giants, Houston, and Tampa are involved in the Moon Stakes.
And we're doing the best we can to evaluate him as far as our team is concerned. I think he's a fine athlete, a fine player, a fine person. How good a quarterback he'll be, we're back into that crystal ball stuff. I don't really know.
Wherever he decides to sign, his family will be well off. But don't think that the team that offers the most money will be the one he automatically signs with.
What if someone offered me $800,000 a year and it was in Seattle, as opposed to $1 million a year and being in Cleveland? I'd go to Seattle. I mean, there's different circumstances for everything.
Irv, I guess he wouldn't be the first to come out of Canada and go to the NFL.
Let's take you back a few years. Sam Echeverry came down and played for the Cardinals because Joe Kapp took the Vikings to the Super Bowl, and Joe Theismann won it all.
But we should report that Moon did not play well his last few games up there, Irv, so some of the teams apparently have cooled on him, including the New York Giants. I'm sure in the weeks ahead, Jimmy the Greek will have more on that story. And now let's send you back to the stadium and the game you're enjoying on CBS.
Welcome back to Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium, a sold-out Three Rivers Stadium, the 93rd consecutive sellout. The Steelers and the Minnesota Vikings all deadlocked at 7-all. Well, again, everybody, I'm Jim Kelly, John Dockery alongside. Kind of a surprising game as far as the Vikings are concerned. They did one thing that Bud Grant was very concerned about, the ability to go 80 yards and score in a touchdown drive.
And they did score. Here we see the first score by the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is Stout. He finds Benny Cunningham coming across underneath the zone. Touchdown. Pittsburgh went ahead 7-0. But as you said, Jim, Steve Dills and the Minnesota Vikings had that long drive, a continuous drive, before Dills finally found Sam McCullum cutting across the left side, beating Mel Blount for a touchdown. Minnesota right back in the game, score tied 7-7.
You know, in talking to the Vikings around the hotel, they to a man thought that their backs were up against it, as you pointed out, John. But they also thought they had a great opportunity to come in here to Three Rivers Stadium, where the Steelers are so ever awesome, and upset the Steelers because they were flat. And maybe that's been the case.
Possibly the case. It's 7-7 here in Pittsburgh.
Test pilot Chuck Yeager for AC Delco.
In a high-performance fighter, we go from the griddle to more than 20 degrees below in just seconds. Well, here's an all-weather fighter for your car. The new Delco Freedom Dura Power Battery. Hot or cold, it's got the starting power you can depend on. With a Freedom battery, you never need to add a drop of water.
Get a Delco Freedom battery starting at $39.95 for a 40 series. Call 800-AC-DELCO.
When I first bought this ranch, I could work it with one horse. The place has grown a little since then. And along the way, I learned something. If you sell a man good steers at a fair price, you're going to do okay. The people that make Meister Brau beer must have gone to the same school I did. They got a beer here that tastes just as good as Budweiser. And they sure do. It just doesn't cost as much. It sure don't. I got a hunch. Those boys are going to do okay, too.
Introducing Meister Brau. Tastes as good as Budweiser at a better price.
Now Avis has the fastest way for you to return your car and get this record of your rental charges without waiting at the counter. I'll prove it. Our new Avis Rapid Return is as easy to use as your pocket calculator. You just punch in your car number, your mileage, your gas gauge reading. In less than a minute, out comes a record of your rental charges. Try our new Avis Rapid Return. It's another Avis first. It's fast, it's easy, and it's only at Avis.
Jim Kelly and John Dockery, welcome back to Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium. We've had a 7-all first half, and we've got 30 minutes in regulation between the AFC and the NFC Central Division leaders. I guess the interesting statistic there is the fact that each team has had one turnover, but as Bud Grant pointed out to us at the hotel late last night, Minnesota, in order to win this football game, would have to capitalize on Pittsburgh mistakes, and they failed to do it right at the end of the first half.
They certainly did. Frank Pollard coughed up the ball, and they weren't able to get it in the end zone. Mel Blount made a great play for the interception to actually shut off not only a touchdown, but also the field goal. That would have given Minnesota some momentum going into the locker room. They didn't get it, but they get the ball back right now, Jim. So an important first series in the second half for the Minnesota Vikings.
Vikings, as you saw, also outgained the Steelers 176 yards to 101 yards. Outpassed them by a huge disparity, 107-18. Gary Anderson will tee it from the 35. Jarvis Redwine to the top of the screen. Leo Lewis to the bottom for the Minnesota Vikings. 3 yards deep in the end zone. Jarvis Redwine will bring it out. Hammered down at the 23-yard line. Craig Bingham, in his second year out of Syracuse, in there on the tackle.
And it's amazing how well that Steve Dills is in the first half was 8 completions in 14 attempts for over 100 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But now he's doing it without his big guns. Darren Nelson, we mentioned earlier, not playing. Ted Brown out with an injury. Joe Sensor not part of the offense. Sammy White very quiet. Of course, Ahmad Rashad is gone.
Could you imagine what shape the Vikings would be in if they were healthy? From the 23, motioned by the veteran Dave Casper. Inside handoff again to Tony Galbraith. He has been the workhorse on the ground for the Minnesota Vikings in the grasp of Mike Merriweather. Galbraith in the first half, 16 carries, 68 yards, averaging about 4.4 yards per carry.
Galbraith has done it all. He's also caught 3 passes for 16 yards. So there you see it, 17 now for 75 yards. Galbraith has picked up the slack. But I must say the Pittsburgh Steelers are flat, Jim. They're not playing with the intensity that they've played with in previous weeks.
2nd and 5 for Steve Dills. Lewis wide left, McCullum wide right. Dills sets it up well. Casper. Oh, what a play by Robin Cole.
Robin Cole fought off that block so well. Linebacker's supposed to do that. He fought off the block here. Take a look at it again. Robin Cole sees Casper, stays with him, fights off the block here, and makes the play on Casper, who's not the niftiest guy in the world, but good play by Robin Cole.
Robin Cole, the only player from the University of New Mexico to ever play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. #1 draft pick back in '71. 3rd and 8 passing situation. They stay on the ground. Galbraith sandwiched down at the 26. You get the feeling that Bud Grant is getting very conservative on 3rd down calls. He did it the entire first half.
Yes, he is getting conservative, but that's one of the things that's being done more and more in the NFL. You run against defenses that are set to protect against the pass, and you pass against run defenses. So it's not all that odd anymore.
Of course, they're missing Darren Nelson, the second-year scat back out of Stanford. One of the Steelers, I guess it was Mel Blount, says he's so quick, even the camera's missing.
278 total yards offense last week against the Green Bay Packers. Boy, could they use him today.
You must be referring to the other guy's cameras. Our cameras don't miss him. On 4th and 7, Skansky back deep, fields over his shoulder. That's a dangerous way to field a punt. Gets a couple of blocks and finally is chopped down at the 29. Robin Sendline, 3rd year out of Texas, the man that made the hit and the tackle secure. So it's Cliff Stout and the Pittsburgh Steelers from their own 29-yard line. 1st and 10, and again a 7-7 standoff between the leader in the NFC Central, the Minnesota Vikings, tied for that top spot with the Green Bay Packers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers with a 3-game lead over the Cleveland Browns. But the Browns were up big at Foxborough against the New England Patriots. Garrity wide to the right side, Sweeney wide left. Backs are Pollard and Franco Harris. Pollard fumbled last time. Gets a block from Franco. Penalty flag comes down again. Steelers hurt themselves with back-to-back holding calls in the first half. Had it down at the Vikings' 30-yard line. Tommy Hannon made the tackle on number 30, Frank Pollard.
And it certainly looked like number 32, Franco Harris, doing what he likes to do least as a running back, block. He was blocking on number 47, Joey Browner. I think that's where the penalty might have been.
You know, you talk about Tommy Hannon in his 7th year out of Michigan State, who made the tackle. He said coming into the game, Pittsburgh was due for a downer, and we had better be due for an upper.
Holding, number 32, 10 yards, still first down.
Franco Harris holding on the lead block.
1st and 20 for the Pittsburgh Steelers now. Sweeney top of your screen, Garrity to the bottom. Stout airs it out and throws it closer to Chuck Noll than Greg Garrity. Incomplete at the 40-yard line. Matt Blair putting all kinds of pressure on Cliff Stout.
And Stout didn't have much of a first half. He was 5 completions in 9 attempts for only 36 yards. Second half, there you see it right there, 5 of 10 for 36 now. He has 1 touchdown, though, to Benny Cunningham. And that's all the Pittsburgh Steelers have. Score tied 7-7 here. Chuck Noll wondering how to get his offense untracked.
I believe you're going to hear a chorus of boos if the Steelers don't get a first down here, because their offense has been sputtering at best. Chuck Noll and what he's done here in the Pittsburgh Steelers since inheriting a 1-13 team. Blitz is on by the Vikings. Incomplete to Franco at the 32. And he had lots of artificial surface to ramble over it. He pulled that one down. Tommy Hannon in pursuit, but Franco was open and Cliff Stout simply misfired.
What did Chuck Noll say about concentration, Jim? He says it's a simple word, but it speaks volumes. That time Franco Harris had a chance to make that catch. Stout did well to get the ball off. It was there. He just didn't hold on to it.
Now, talking about the artificial surface here at Three Rivers, Franco Harris told us that it might prolong his career by as much as 2 years.
It used to be like concrete. They changed it this year. It's a lot softer, a lot easier on the legs.
3rd and 20 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Stout over the middle, looks for Sweeney, incomplete at the 45, no flag. Sweeney, had he not tripped over the heels of one of the defenders, and I believe it was number 45, Tommy Hannon. Let's take another look and see who he tripped over.
Now, Stout does not have a Terry Bradshaw arm. This ball is thrown fairly well. The receiver hadn't tripped. Actually, it's tipped by a defensive back. The receiver tripped. Referee called no penalty.
It's been a busy afternoon for that man. Rufus Best back deep. He hasn't been busy. He's been letting them bounce, and they've been bouncing Pittsburgh's way. High spiraling kick, backing Best up to the 29. Needs a block to the 40. His best return of the afternoon. Tackled by Craig Bingham again, who's been excellent on the specialty teams, and Bud Grant's Vikings now start in good field position. They start 1st and 10 from their own 41. We are still square at 7.
Move into more celebrity excitement.
Eurosport.
The new front drive Celebrity Eurosport. Special F41 sports suspension straightens out curves in a car that looks as special as it feels.
Eurosport.
Move into more celebrity. Eurosport. A touch of Europe at a Chevrolet price.
Chevrolet.
And you.
Taking charge.
A colorful breakthrough. Canon's 270F. It lets you make up to 27 copies a minute, reduces, enlarges, can even feed and collate automatically. But the 270F does more. It lets you communicate in color at a price that keeps you in the black. The Canon NP270F. For information, call toll-free.
Tuesday, Ben is caught between an innocent man accused of murder.
Tell me where you were, exactly.
And a family bent on revenge.
Sheriff, get in
The
here!
Mississippi.
Time remaining in the 3rd quarter, and the Steeler fans trying to exhort their defense. Their offense has been unresponsive. Motion by Brewer, the tight end. Play action by Dills. Over the middle. Casper's got it. First down at the 25 of Pittsburgh.
Somebody must have been listening to Dave Casper when he said, you know what? They haven't been using me very much. I don't understand it. I've always caught the ball throughout my career. That time, Dills finds him over the middle for a big first down.
Casper came into the game with only 9 receptions for 121 yards. 10th year out of Notre Dame. Traded by the Oilers to Minnesota this year, along with Archie Manning. Slot formation left side from the 25 of Pittsburgh. Dills digs in. Wide open is Galbraith inside the 20. Knifes his way down to about the 18 in the grasp of Lauren Tays. And about 3 yards shy of first down yardage again. And you saw Dills. He wanted to go to the corner. Pittsburgh's secondary had the men covered, and he just unloaded to the safety valve.
That's a trademark of the Minnesota offense. It's been for years. Some people think that it was Walsh who created that short passing game, that controlled passing game. It was really Bud Grant years ago with Chuck Foreman, with the Ed Marinaros, with the Ted Browns.
And with a guy named Tarkenton.
Yes.
2nd and 2. Very close to first down yardage, and I think by the time Galbraith extended himself, he picked it up. You know, you can sense the Vikings taking control of this football game. They sense that the Pittsburgh offense is very flat, and you've got to like the way Dills comes out now along with Grant in the play calling and attacks the Pittsburgh secondary.
That's the only way to do it. If you go into your shell and be conservative, especially when you're on a 3-game losing streak, someone must take the game in the control of their hands. Steve Dills is doing that right now.
Dills 11 out of 17, 157 yards and 1 touchdown. Handoff inside to Ricky Young. He slithers down to about the 11.5. Lauren Tays on the tackle again. His 11th year out of California. Had 51 tackles coming into this game.
You know, Jim, you talk about taking a game in your hands. Tommy Kramer, the fiery quarterback who was out with a knee injury, was so good at that. He could pick up on a team up on the strength of his personality. Dills is trying to be a little more like that. He's more of the scholarly, the intellectual type, the quiet quarterback.
Leo Lewis wide left. Sam McCullum top of your screen on 2nd and 6 for the Vikings. Almost a missed snap. Dills releases underneath. Incomplete. And here comes a penalty flag. It'll be defensive pass interference against Lauren Tays, number 51. He was draped all over the back of number 34, Ricky Young, who tried to escape the backfield. Big break for the Vikings now. They'll have it first and goal, and the Steeler defense has got their work cut out for them.
And Ricky Young is such a great receiver out of the backfield. Laurente's obviously faked out, had to commit a penalty. Let's listen to it.
Holding, number 51, 5 yards, first down.
Now Ricky Young, number 34, watch him here to the left of your screen, coming out of the backfield. Laurente's is running over to meet him, to cover him. But right there, he's holding Young, who is by him, and there's the penalty.
You know, of the top 10 active wide receivers in the NFC, that the Vikings have 3 in the top 5, Ricky Young, Dave Casper, and Sammy White. The number 1 receiver is Harold Carmichael. He's not active anymore. Marion Campbell benched him this week. Brewer motion, top of the screen. Play action by Dills. Out of the pocket. Touchdown. Tony Galbraith. You talk about an improvised play. Dills was running for his life. He wanted to go to Brewer, the tight end, but he was covered.
And not a great scrambler. Steve Dills, this is not a design play. Take a look at it again. Here he fakes, sets up. He wants to half roll. He's scrambling. He's feeling the pressure. Fakes. Looks like he's going to run. Pulls it down. Touchdown. Minnesota Vikings, Tony Galbraith.
Vikings lead for the first time in this football game. They lead for the first time in 2 weeks. They never got ahead of Green Bay. They closed to within a point. Benny Ricardo, and we've got a 7-point Minnesota advantage. For Steve Dills, his 10th touchdown toss of the season, his second of the afternoon. The difference is a touchdown. The Vikings lead Pittsburgh by 7.
Chevy Top is taking charge. Compare S10 Maxi Cab to Datsun King Cab, and you'll see Chevy S10 has
Maxi room,
50% more rear load space,
Maxi payload,
more payload than King Cab,
Maxi power,
optional V6 muscle the imports don't have,
Maxi towing,
3,000 pounds more than the imports. Maximize your truck value. Chevy S10 Maxi Cab. Chevy Top is taking charge.
Our first company picnic wasn't much. 2 bags of chips and a 6-pack. But things changed, because we give our customers a good job for a good price. Call it good business, like this Meisterbrow. Sure, I can pick any beer now, but Meisterbrow tastes every bit as good as Budweiser, and it doesn't cost as much, so there's no contest. Hey, any of you overpaid, underworked people want a beer?
Introducing Meisterbrow. Tastes as good as Budweiser at a better price.
We are back at Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium, the home of the terrible towel. Right now, the towel is about all that's been terrible. Besides the Pittsburgh offense, they scored on their first possession and then went flat sitting. Benny Ricardo will boot this one away from the 35. This is a low, wobbly kick that Henry Odom will chase and watch sail out of bounds at about the 10. Word now that Walter Payton has just passed O.J. Simpson on the all-time NFL career rushing list, which means that he trails only Jim Brown and Franco Harris and is now 3rd in NFL all-time rushing. The Vikings drive, a 6-yard scoring strike, Dills to Tony Galbraith.
5 plays, 59 yards, took 3 minutes, and Dills is having a good afternoon.
Vikings will back up and tee it up again from the 30-yard line.
You know, I think it's part the Minnesota Vikings, part the flatness of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Dills is now 13 completions and 19 attempts, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception.
What do you do if you're Chuck Noll to try to get your offense on track?
I think you have to open it up a little bit. I think you have to say to Cliff Stout, okay, put the ball up, do the things you want to do, and let's see if it works.
Ricardo this time sails a high end-over-end kick that Odom will field cleanly at the 10, to the 20, to the 30, explodes to the 36, and it'll be 1st and 10 Pittsburgh from that point. No flags. Walker Lee Ashley, the rookie out of Penn State. You and I saw him last year in the Sugar Bowl when you treated me to the New Orleans for a weekend. The Dolphins have gone up 31-0 now against the Baltimore Colts. Dan Marino, a 1-yard run. So Baltimore looks to increase their record to 8-4. Buffalo, of course, 7-4, but they were falling behind. 1st and 10 for the Pittsburgh Steelers from their own 36. Slot formation to the left side. Franco Harris, the lone running back. do it. He loses 2. Matt Blair chopped him down. You can see the fire right there in the Minnesota Vikings defense.
And that's what they knew they were going to have if they were going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, as everyone said, was on a roll. I mean, they're tied for the best record in the NFL with the Washington Redskins and the Dallas Cowboys.
This must be the week for teams to go flat. The Patriots have not scored at all against Cleveland. The Browns lead 23-0. 2nd and 12 now for the Steelers. They trail by 7. Stout, incomplete, badly thrown ball, looking for Frank Pollard out of the backfield. The offensive unit, they're just not in sync with one another. The linemen not blocking for the backs, and Stout and his receivers not in sync, which is surprising because that was something that Cliff was talking about yesterday, how he was maturing and getting more in sync with the receivers and vice versa.
And that's a dramatic graphic. You're exactly right. Minnesota, 155 yards passing. Pittsburgh, only 36 yards. And we mentioned earlier that Pittsburgh has been more of a one-dimensional offense, running the ball a lot better than they've been able to throw it. And it's being exhibited here today.
Motion by Cunningham, the tight end. They need 12 for a first down. Stout fires over the middle. He's got his man. That's Garrity. First down, Pittsburgh.
The rookie from Penn State with the great hands, Greg Garrity, only 5'10", 170 pounds, makes a big play. Remember a few weeks ago, Pittsburgh Steelers were losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Stout came back and hit some big plays. We'll have to see if that's going to be the case today, because the one lingering doubt in Chuck Noll's mind has been whether, if the Pittsburgh Steelers get behind, whether their offense can score in a hurry and get back in the game. I think that has still to be proven, even though they did it against Tampa Bay.
Garrity, by the way, who caught that first down pass, the only native Pittsburgher on the Steeler roster, from the 48 of the Minnesota Vikings. Stout, play action. Goes for all of it, got Sweeney and misses him by about 3 yards. That's been wide open all day. Sweeney told us yesterday they were going to run that play. Work on the corners of the Vikings. They like to play up about 15 yards off the line of scrimmage, but Stout just hasn't been able to get the ball to him.
And Sweeney has that deceiving speed. He was actually running right by Willie Teal. Stout unable to get him the ball there.
2nd down, 10 yards to go from the 48-yard line. Stout having his problems. And off to Hawthorne. Hawthorne with a convoy around the right side gets near the 41-yard line. Hawthorne in his 5th year out of Baylor. He's as dangerous as a wide receiver as he is as a running back. Randy Holloway in pursuit finally chopped him down.
And you look at his career rushing, not many for a guy who's been in the league for 5 years. It's surprising to see him in the backfield because he's been mostly a wide receiver this year. But he told me yesterday, you know, I don't care whether it's wide receiver or running back. All I want to do is play.
You know, Hawthorne was the first running back drafted #1 by the Pittsburgh Steelers since Franco Harris. 3rd and 3. Big play for Pittsburgh. Blitz is on. Matt Blair was coming. Stout running for his life and throws it out of bounds. In the general direction of Cunningham. And look at Lambert down on the sideline with a towel draped around his neck, screaming at the officials, claiming pass interference.
That was a good play by John Turner, number 27. He got up to bat that ball away. Stout did well to scramble and get the ball off. That's the extra dimension that Stout has. He's a big guy, 6'4". Let's take another look, okay, at Matt Blair. See Matt Blair on the blitz. Minnesota taking a page from the Pittsburgh Steelers, using aggressive defense to force Stout to throw off balance. The pass is incomplete.
And you saw Stout explaining the situation to head coach Chuck Noll. Noll just turned his back and didn't want to hear about it. He knows awful when he sees it. 4th and 3. Not Stout. Just the way the offense has been performing since they scored on the opening drive. Colquitt will sail this one out of the end zone. That's almost like a free play. The line of scrimmage was at 39, so a net gain of 19 yards. I don't understand that. It's still a 7-point Viking lead.
Chevrolet, taking charge.
When you buy a dependable Chevy Chevette, you'll find you can also afford some of the other good things in life. like extra money for a growing family or an honest-to-goodness vacation. Because Chevette's so dependable, 97% ever built are still going strong. So you can plan to own your Chevette for years and begin putting your money into something other than a car.
Chevrolet.
And you.
Taking charge.
If you want the agent who gives you good neighbor service on your car, home, life, and health insurance, check with State Farm.
I'm State Farm agent Carl Cox. What sets State Farm apart is no secret. It's that good neighbor service State Farm is famous for. With State Farm, you have affordable protection that respects your budget. One agent who can do it all. Life, health, home, and car insurance. And just one number to call for that good neighbor service. Check with State Farm.
And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Two of college football's most explosive offenses will be on display when Walter Lewis leads Alabama against Doug Flutie and Boston College. NCAA football Friday on CBS Sports. Time remaining in the third quarter. It's been all Minnesota since Pittsburgh scored on their opening possession. Little delay. Jarvis Redwine, first down and more. His second carry of the season for the Vikings, wrestled out of bounds by Dwayne Woodruff.
And Jarvis Redwine is a man who really got lost in the shuffle with the Ricky Youngs and the Darren Nelsons and the Ted Browns. Of course, a great running back at Nebraska in his third year. Last year, no receptions, no carries. That time breaks a good gain for a first down, gets the Minnesota Vikings in good field position out of that hole.
That was also the longest carry of his career with the Minnesota Vikings, chased out by Woodruff, who said Pittsburgh's got to assume a more aggressive posture. We can't lay back and wait. We've got to create some things to happen. Casper motion, near side. This is Galbraith sweeping left. Lambert, you saw him hurl his body out in front. The first man to get there, though, was Robin Cole. The Vikings are 6-5, tied with the Green Bay Packers for that top spot in the NFC Central. The Packers playing in Detroit. The Lions have a 31-yard field goal from Eddie Murray with 5:28 left to go in the third quarter, and they've closed John to within 7. Green Bay leads 20-13. Meanwhile, the Giants are shellacking the Eagles in Philadelphia 16-0. Bills 13 of 20, 155 yards and 1 touchdown. Looks at 2nd and 7. Sideline, first down Minnesota. Sam McCullum turns around. Mel Blount again.
What a good play by Ricky Young. Jack Lambert was coming on the blitz. He would have been in Steve Dill's face, but Ricky Young cut him low at the knees, prevented that, thus the completion.
You know, the other side of Mel Blount, the human side. He has a camp for wayward teenagers, and he has a function coming up, Doc, in a couple of weeks.
In 3 weeks, and it's interesting that Mel Blount called Pete Rozelle, the commissioner, directly and said, Pete, can you come to my function to raise some money for these poor kids, these problem kids? And you know what Pete said? Sure, I'll be there. Sometimes you think of the commissioner being far away from the players, not so.
Ricky Young gets the call and slithers across the 45 down to about the 44, and Jack Lambert, trying to pick up the intensity, throws his body out in front of the ball carrier once again. Well, you talk about Commissioner Pete Rozelle and the fact that he'll be attending that function, the camp run by Mel Blount for wayward teenagers. The commissioner is also here, sitting right next to the box with Art Rooney. The commissioner here with his lovely wife, Karen. 2nd and 10. Minnesota leads by 7. They've got the football and that old friend, momentum. Unloads to Galbraith. Galbraith breaks it inside the 40 and dives down to the 35. John Goodman made the tackle secure. And there is his wife, Carrie, behind, sipping some hot chocolate. On the eve of Super Bowl 18, the commissioner, and of course Super Bowl 18 right here on CBS Sports from Tampa Stadium, Tampa Bay. Third and 1. First down, Vikings. Down to the 32 goes Ricky Young.
And you have to be surprised the way the Minnesota Viking offensive line is pushing around the Pittsburgh Steelers. First downs, look at that. 17 first downs for the Minnesota Vikings. Only 7 for Pittsburgh. And that's a credit because this offensive line, last week we mentioned it against the Green Bay Packers, 6 sacks on their quarterback. Problems all year long. Now playing a terrific game against a very strong, aggressive Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line.
From the 32 of the Steelers, 1st and 10, Minnesota. Play action. Dills. Over the middle, got Casper again. Casper bowls his way down to the 20-yard line. 6'4", 241. David Little, 6'1", and 220, was hanging on.
Steve Dills actually wanted to throw that ball to Leo Lewis on the outside. There was double coverage. Instead, he took his time, found the secondary receiver. Casper picks up the first down.
Not much for this sold-out crowd to get into here at Three Rivers Stadium. They've been quiet since the opening possession by Pittsburgh, and what a job Bud Grant has done getting his Vikings ready. They had lost 3 games in a row. They were 6-2. They had a big lead in the NFC Central, but then they lost to St. Louis, they lost to Tampa Bay, and they lost to Green Bay. Another first down. Nothing doing this time. Chop down. Jarvis Redwine, Edmund Nelson got to him.
And you have to think the pride of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense will start to come out now. I won't be surprised if Lambert and the Steelers start to blitz more, try to make something happen. They've been very passive. They haven't been aggressive the way they usually are.
Have you got your calculator with you?
I left it in New York.
Cardinals have scored again. Otis Anderson, a 1-yard run. St. Louis now leads San Diego 44-7. And, of course, St. Louis and Dallas do battle here on CBS on Thanksgiving Day. It all starts at 3:30 Eastern Time with the NFL today. 2nd and 11. Blitz is on. Dills throws it out of bounds in the direction of Sam McCullum, but that time Mel Blount was closer to the football. Pressure by Robin Cole and by number 57, Mike Merriweather.
Steve Dills faces that dual problem. When the pressure comes, as you look at his statistics for the afternoon, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception. When the pressure comes and the Pittsburgh Steelers were on an all-out blitz, it gives man-to-man coverage in the secondary. Dills just couldn't set himself and go for McCullum against Mel Blount. Of course, McCullum beat Blount earlier for a touchdown.
Line of scrimmage, the 21. It's 3rd and about 10.5 yards for the Vikings. Steelers would like some kind of a play and take them out of field goal range or maybe come up with a turnover. Dills. That is an incompleted pass. An incompleted pass to Galbraith. He did not have control at the 12-yard line. Donnie Shell, the man responsible for lack of control.
Galbraith looked like he was going to make a great catch, left-handed catch, but who was there to hit him, to meet him, to say, wait a minute, you can't have that in a first down. Watch him out of the backfield. Galbraith, left hand, puts it up, tries to pull it in, but Donnie Shell clocks him the ball, shaken loose.
Billy Werndell, our spotter from Philadelphia, had the binoculars on Donnie Shell. Ricardo, 8 of 10 between the 30 and the 39. Will try to add to that Minnesota lead. Vikings lead by 10. Steelers have to play catch-up. 1:52 left, 3rd quarter.
Who makes the best-selling radials in America? Goodyear. We outsell all foreign radials combined. One reason, the Goodyear Arriva. It gives you long tread life. And best of all season traction in the wet stuff and the white stuff. The Goodyear all-season Arriva. It's one reason Goodyear is the leader in radials. No foreign maker of radials even comes close. Goodyear, #1 in radials.
Here comes the hottest-selling Chevrolet today. The fun-to-drive front-drive Cavalier. Fire up 2 liters of electronically fuel-injected fun and experience more horsepower than the top 3 imports. The minute you feel Cavalier perform, you'll know what makes Cavalier the hottest-selling Chevrolet today. Chevrolet! And you. Taking charge.
Thanksgiving Day, an NFL special. The St. Louis Cardinals visit Dallas and hope to ambush the playoff-bound Cowboys. It all begins with the NFL Today on CBS Sports.
Art Rooney, the class gentleman, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, watching on as his team trails by 10. But I guess 3 weeks ago we were here. Tampa Bay had a 12-0 lead, and the Steelers came back to win it in the fourth quarter, 17-12. But then they showed signs of offensive life. The offense has been sputtering. Henry Odom will try to break a big one and get some momentum going. He gets it up as he cracks his way down to the 25. Robin Sendline, again, third year out of Texas, smacked him down at the 25. You know, we talked about the Cardinals being up by that 44-7 score against the Chargers. Cardinals really coming on now under Neil Lomax, and they're getting healthy themselves. They are 4-1-1 their last 6 games.
And wait a minute, shouldn't this be logical as we look at it? San Diego beat Dallas last week. St. Louis is beating San Diego this week, so that should take you with deductive logic to St. Louis beating Dallas on Thanksgiving Day.
Well, you know, they should be 5-1 because they had all kinds of problems that Monday night game against the Giants. Incomplete at the 34-yard line, intended for Garrity, and the Boo-Birds will start to ring down on that man. You remember that Monday night game, the 20-20 tie, when they missed a couple of touchdown tosses, and then O'Donohue missed some field goals. Let's go back to New York for an NFL update. Here again is Brent.
Jim, Walter Payton's great day continues for the Chicago Bears. His second touchdown, over 100 yards on the afternoon. The third all-time rushing leader. The Bears are in command against the Buccaneers 20-0. Back to Pittsburgh and Jim Kelly.
I don't know, Brent. They must have put mudcocks on Walter Payton. Running in that monsoon down in Tampa Bay. 2nd and 10 Pittsburgh. Blitz is on. Down goes Stout. Freddie McNeil and Doug Martin. And you get the feeling the Vikings are about to nail this one down.
I was just going to say, you get the feeling that the Vikings are sick of losing and they came to play. Of course, their defense poorly ranked. Take a look at it. Watch the right side of your screen. Stout back to pass. He never sees McNeil coming from that side. He senses him right there, tries to get away, but there's no chance. Goes down for the sack. And this defense, Minnesota's, is ranked 22nd in the NFL, but they live by the big play. 21 interceptions, 16 fumble recoveries, 34 sacks coming into the game.
Well, you talk about a mismatch. The Vikings defense 25th against the rush. Pittsburgh is 2nd in the NFL in the rushing department. Stout, he needs 16. Goes up top. Incomplete at the 45. There were 5 Minnesota Vikings closer to the football than Calvin Sweeney was. Stout didn't see it.
And you take a look at the defense again, okay? They're playing a big zone defense. They got an extra defensive back in there. They're all playing their areas. There's a huge hole right down the middle, but there's no one there, and that's where Stout throws the ball. Might have been a mix-up with his wide receiver. Calvin Sweeney, number 85, might have been... He was supposed to cut over the middle, but he saw defensive back inside, so he didn't do it. Stout threw it anyhow, incompletion.
And you saw the jubilation of Willie Teal, number 37, who raised his arms up. They know they've got control of this football game. Coleman bangs one. Rufus Best thinks about it and watches it bounce again. It'll go dead at about the 29.5-yard line. A 10-point Minnesota advantage against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh scored first on their very first possession. And after that, it has been all Vikings, losers of 3 in a row.
Devlin, biggest game of the year, and you couldn't get tickets.
Welcome to Miller Time.
You did.
It's all yours, and it's all mine. Bring your thirsty self right here. The rich, smooth taste of Miller beer is what you have in mind. Welcome to Miller Time.
Welcome to the rich, smooth taste of Miller High Life.
Welcome, you know you're welcome. Welcome. Welcome to Miller Time. Yours and mine, yours and mine.
Time remaining third quarter. It's been a scoreless second and third quarter for that man, Chuck Noll, head coach Pittsburgh Steelers. Vikings will work on their clock. Tony Galbraith across the 35. Down at the 37, David Little, third year out of Florida, made the tackle secure on Tony.
Galbraith has now carried the ball 20 times for over 84 yards, having a great afternoon. Take a look at the quarterbacks, how they're this afternoon. Steve Dill, 16 of 24, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cliff Stout, miserable afternoon. Only 6 completions, 54 yards. Not doing much through the airways.
And it's tough to play catch-up when your quarterback has only completed 6 passes for 54 yards and you're down by 10 points.
I thought it was interesting that Chuck Noll, when we asked him about his team, what did he call it? He said it was adaptable. They're ready to take preparation. That's what's made it so much fun this year to coach them.
You heard the gun. That's the end of the third quarter. It's been a scoreless second and third quarter for the Steelers. The Vikings have tacked on 10 points after being tied 7-all. That's the end of the third quarter with a score of Vikings 17-7. Now a word from your local station.
Sunday on a special 1-hour Alice. Vera gets engaged, but a marriage mix-up could nip her nuptials in the bud. It's a major television event. Vera gets married Sunday.
This is CBS.
Timing. When you have it, performance is at its peak. At Dean Bosworth, we try to find investment opportunities that are not only fundamentally sound, but timed to achieve peak performance.
People around town liked the way a small HMO treated them. They told others. The small HMO grew and grew. Now, when employers offer HMOs, Share is the growing choice. Share.
At Amoco, we put a premium on performance with the premium performance gasoline and the performance guarantee from Certicare. Certicare, where every repair is guaranteed in writing, where you get a specially trained Certicare mechanic and a written estimate in advance. You expect more from Amoco, and the Certicare performance guarantee is one way you get it.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Jim Kelly and John Dockery welcome back to Pittsburgh where the Vikings lead by 10. Galbraith sweeps the right side and almost breaks it around that right side. Excuse me, that was Jarvis Redwine. And he is having his finest game as a Minnesota Vikings. In fact, he had his first carry in the first quarter.
And coming into this game, so many people thought that the Minnesota Vikings would go to the razzle-dazzle offense, put players all over the field. The Pittsburgh Steelers were ready for that hurry-up offense with 4 wide receivers. They really haven't done that. They've kept to the things they do best, short passes out of the backfield. Some running plays. I'm surprised they're running this well as you look at Jarvis Redwine's stats against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which is 4th in the league against the rush.
1st and 10. Pitch back. Jarvis Redwine again. Loose football, but he fumbles it out of bounds. Break for the Vikings, who will hang on to the pigskin. David Little, the man that chopped it loose from Jarvis Redwine. Redwine, the second back in Nebraska history to accumulate 2 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons.
And we're talking to Chuck Noll. We asked him the difference. Everyone's comparing this defense to the great Joe Green defenses of the 4 Super Bowl teams. He said, you know what? The difference is those defenses used to shut down people cold. This defense we have creates turnovers.
From the 49 of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Vikings look at 2nd and 3. Galbraith replacing Jarvis Redwine. Dills, draw play, Galbraith. Hammered at the line of scrimmage. Mike Merriweather along with Keith Garrett. You can see Lambert trying to pick up the intensity.
And he says he's not a rah-rah guy. He talked about coming here with the great defense as being a young guy and how Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, Andy Russell, those guys led. It was with quiet intensity. He does the same thing. He doesn't say much. He just lets his play speak for him, and certainly it does.
After the Steelers won 7 straight games, I asked Jack at the Pittsburgh practice the other day, I said, does this young team know how good they are? And he chuckled and he said, I don't even know how good they are. Vikings need 2 to keep the football. Dills will air it out. Good pass protection. Goes up on top. Leo Lewis, incomplete. I don't think that would have been a legal catch had he made it because he went out of bounds and then came back in. Dwayne Woodruff back there on the coverage. So Pittsburgh will get that football back and will have to play catch-up. They did it a couple weeks ago against Tampa Bay when the Bucs led 12-0, and Pittsburgh came back with 17 straight points in the fourth quarter.
And you may say, well, that's not such a great feat. Tampa Bay, of course, was winless at the time, but Tampa Bay has an excellent defense, so that the Pittsburgh Steelers did it against a very good defense. But on the other side of the coin, Tampa Bay's offense went into a shell. Minnesota is not doing that here this afternoon.
Well, you remember what all the coaches said as they got ready to play against Tampa Bay. They said, you look at Leroy Selman, you look at Hugh Green, and tell me they're an 0-8 or an 0-9 football team. Great punt by Coleman, and look at him jumping up and down and high-fiving at the 45 as he nailed it inside the 5 to the 4-yard line. So Cliff Stout and the Pittsburgh Steelers trailing by 10 will have to go 96 yards. Take a look at Coleman here. We talked about the high fives and the reaction. He watches it go out of bounds. Then he said, all right, get out of there. I did it. I nailed it. A high 5 and a low 5, and it's 1st and 10 Pittsburgh from their own 4.
Ford Escort. It's engineered with 4-wheel independent suspension for a smoother ride than this Japanese import. It's engineered with more passenger room than this Japanese import. Plus, Escort has more standard features than this Japanese import. And now with the new available 2-liter diesel engine, Ford Escort is engineered for better mileage ratings than this Japanese import. Have you driven the best-built American cars? Have you driven a Ford lately?
Presenting Magnavox and Ralph.
Attaboy, Ralph. Another day with my Magnavox. Look at that Magnavox picture. So bright and clear and so reliable. Whenever I'm ready, my Magnavox is ready. Yes, sir. If there's one thing I can count on, it's my Magnavox. And my dog Ralph here. If you want reliability, get a Magnavox. Because I'm not giving up Ralph.
Magnavox. The performance lasts.
Doc, as the Steelers start from their own 4, consider that just 2 weeks ago, James Wilder had 219 yards against the, well, we'll pick that up in just a second. It is 1st and 10 from the 10-yard line. Pittsburgh down by 10. Frank Pollard, nothing doing. Again, 2 weeks ago, James Wilder, 219 yards rushing against this Minnesota defense. Tony Dorsett, 141 yards. Walter Payton, 102 yards. Earl Campbell, 130. O.J. Anderson, 136. Wendell Tyler, 107. What's happened to Franco?
You had to figure that Franco came into this game saying, oh, boy, you know, smacking his lips saying, aha, here's my 100-yard game. Here I get closer to Jim Brown. It hasn't been the case. Franco only has 30 yards rushing. The total rushing for the Pittsburgh Steelers is only 89 yards.
And it's be careful time. Stout looks at 2nd and 10. Vikings show the blitz. Only one wide receiver out. That's Garrity, top of the screen. Pollard again behind a block by Franco. A nice block around the left side. Needs to motor a little bit more. Gets out near the 8-yard line. Good blocking by 77 Steve Corson in his 6th year out of South Carolina, but a good defensive play by Joey Browner to string it out.
And Pollard had a good week last week. Joey Browner did make a good play. Pollard 80 yards against the Baltimore Colts in that victory for the Steelers. He leaves the field. A lot of people say Frank Pollard should be playing more, but there just hasn't been room with number 1 draft choice Walter Abercrombie and, of course, the great Franco Harris.
Boy, what is wrong in Philadelphia? Marion Campbell benches a couple of his starters, like Stan Walters and Harold Carmichael, and the Giants lead Philadelphia 23-0. 3rd and 6. Stout. Here come the Vikings underneath. That's very close to a 1st down. Calvin Sweeney. That's only Calvin's 2nd catch of what is becoming a long afternoon for the Pittsburgh wide receivers, and that is a Steeler 1st down.
Joey Browner showed his youth. He's a rookie out of USC, number 47. He had a great beat on Calvin Sweeney. Had he been willing to read the quarterback and gamble a little bit, he would have broken up that play.
1st down for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sweeney, by the way, scored his first pro touchdown, a 21-yard reception against the Vikings back in 1980. They could use another one here to get back into it. Sweeney wide right. Play action to Franco. Throws the block. Stout. Pollard's got it at the 20. And one of the Vikings has got Pollard. That is Tommy Hannon, 7th year out of Michigan State.
Stout's starting to open it up a little bit, but he's doing it in a smart way. He doesn't want to throw an interception, have a turnover down here. He's sending his backs out of the backfield, short passes over the middle to his wide receivers to see if he can move the ball off the field. Remember, Pittsburgh will get the ball back 2 or 3 more times with 11 minutes left in this game. No need to panic.
Remember when we were here against Tampa Bay, Wayne Capers, the rookie, had such a great game, number 80. They certainly miss him to kind of open things up and help Sweeney out on the other side. 2nd and 3, Pittsburgh. They trail 17-7. Frank Pollard. Not much doing around the left side. Good penetration by number 73, Neil Elshire.
And Jim, you mentioned Wayne Capers, the rookie from Kansas, coming on so well. Of course, in fairness to Cliff Stout, some of his big weapons are gone. John Stallworth, hurt. He's out of the game with an ankle. Of course, Jim Smith gone to the other league before the year began. Lynn Swan no longer in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. So in the old days, Bradshaw had all those terrific weapons. Cliff Stout does not have those big weapons.
And now he's got a 3rd and short situation, less than a yard. Benny Cunningham, John Rogers, and Craig Dunaway. Might be a good time for play action and try to go for the big play. That has not been Pittsburgh's philosophy. Franco, first down at the 28-yard line. In the grasp of Joey Browner, but that's a first down for the Steelers. They need a sustained scoring drive. They need to give their defense a rest, let them get a chance to regroup, but they also need a touchdown.
But the philosophy of this Minnesota Viking defense, you've heard it many times, they'll bend, but they don't break. And that's what they're doing right now. A couple of first downs, but how many times does a team in the NFL drive 90 yards without a mistake and get a touchdown? That's what Minnesota is banking on.
Greg Hawthorne, 27, wide to the top of your screen. Down to the near side, Sweeney. Stout will look for Hawthorne. Gives him the pump fake. Goes up top. Hawthorne wide open. Hawthorne. First down.
Stout said he was going to do this. Watch the pump fake by Cliff Stout. That freezes the defensive back. He buys it, and then Hawthorne turns upfield right there. Hawthorne turns it up, has his man beaten by 2 or 3 yards. He has deceiving speed. They say he's the fastest wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers there. He gets a big first down, and Pittsburgh is back in scoring position on their 20-yard line.
That 60-yard reception by Greg Hawthorne in his 5th year out of Baylor, the longest reception in his pro football career. From the 20-yard line of the Vikings. 1st and 10, Pittsburgh. Pollard. Where the Vikings had that one sniffed out, and somehow Frank Pollard managed to pick up 1 grueling yard. Scott Studwell and Charlie Johnson had him in their grasp, but Pollard's forward motion carried him down to the 19.
Of course, Greg Hawthorne has been out most of the year with that pulled thigh muscle. He came back last week, had 1 reception there. That 60-yarder put some life back into the Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
You talk about Charlie Johnson, the former Philadelphia Eagle who plays the nose tackle. He said, some of our Vikings have not been playing as hard, not with the same intensity that we need to in order to win. This game, we've got to put the textbook on the shelf. Pollard down to the 15. Freddie McNeil had him down around the ankles. Interesting 3rd down call coming up now. 8 minutes, 4 seconds and counting left to go in this football game as Garrity checks in, the rookie out of Penn State, with a play call from Chuck Noll.
Cliff Stout especially difficult for a defense down here because of his mobility. He can scramble, he can buy time, he can even run for a first down. That puts tremendous pressure on a defense.
Garrity and Hawthorne are in there at wide receivers. Cunningham's the tight end. Calvin Sweeney out wide to the right side. Hawthorne left. Stout now looks at 3rd and 7. Inside the 10, that'll be close to a Steeler first down. The rookie out of Penn State. How about that? You bring the play in, call your own number.
And that was a simple play where Garrity, all he did was go down about 8 yards, 7 yards, turn inside. John Swing was trying to cover him. He broke outside, and Cliff Stout got it to him for the first down.
Number 87, John Rogers, 2nd year out of Louisiana Tech, comes in with a play. Garrity checks out. nervous Bud Grant on the sideline. His Vikings, even though they're tied with Green Bay, have lost 3 in a row. Sweeney wide left. Hawthorne in the backfield along with Franco Harris. Hawthorne slithers down to about the 5 and then is wrestled backwards. Pittsburgh knocking on the Viking door. Studwell and Johnson anchoring things in the middle.
And that causes problems for a defense. When they see Hawthorne in there, they don't know whether he's going to be a wide receiver or a running back. Just added uncertainty. That gives the offense an edge.
Well, there's also another edge for the Steelers offensively, and that is the running ability of Cliff Stout. Now, interesting on 2nd down and goal for the Minnesota defense, because that's what Scott Studwell was saying. We have to be contained conscious with a Cliff Stout, so maybe play action here would be a good maneuver. Slot to the right side, Hawthorne wide left. Stout wants Hawthorne. Incomplete and almost intercepted by Willie Teal. Boy, you can't play cornerback on a post pattern any better than that.
And Hawthorne, though, made a good play to get that ball away from Willie Teal, who had inside position and almost came up with the interception. Hawthorne ripped the ball away, so it was not. So the Steelers have another opportunity.
You could see the indecision from Cliff Stout. Anytime a quarterback is shuffling his feet back and forth like he's out there on a dance floor, or he takes that football and smacks at it a couple times, he's not sure where he's going to throw.
It's called nervous feet. You've seen a lot of quarterbacks with it when the pressure comes.
Sweeney wide left, Garrity in the slot. Hawthorne moves to the left side now. Motion top of the screen by number 85, Calvin Sweeney. Stout can run back to the right side, gets a block at the 5 and will dive. Touchdown! We talked about the Vikings having to be contained conscious. Cliff Stout has brought Pittsburgh back to it in 4.
They were contained conscious. Stout ran that ball right up the middle and launched himself into the end zone for the touchdown.
Big extra point. Anderson is perfect. The Viking lead has been sliced to 3. 17-14, 6 minutes left to go in a good football game, and we expected as much from the NFC and the AFC Central Division leaders.
You're about to see the Ford Ranger leap to new heights in quality. Based on a survey of owner-reported problems during the first 3 months, Ranger quality was unbeaten by any major small truck maker. And Ranger has V6 power, more horsepower than Chevy S10 of the imports, and a wider cab than any small truck. For toughness, horsepower, and unbeaten quality, it's Ranger down-to-earth tough. The best-built American trucks are built. Ford Tough.
You know, at Midas, we've installed over 48 million mufflers, more than any other muffler chain. In fact, compare us to any of them, and you know what you'll find?
We've had more repeat customers than they've had customers.
We've done more foreign cars than they've done cars.
And with our Midas guarantee, we've installed more free mufflers than they've sold. When it comes to experience, no one can touch Midas.
Trust the Midas touch. College basketball returns to CBS Sports as Kansas takes on Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon and the rest of Houston's Phi Slama Jama crew Saturday on CBS Sports.
Cliff Stout driving the Minnesota Viking defense crazy. Here he rolls out looking for his receivers. They're covered. And it's as though the Minnesota Vikings freeze for a moment. Here's Stout. Watch him launch himself right there. Touchdown.
And then he threw the ball for what might be his longest completion of the day. It went to a fan almost in the second level of the stands. From the 35, Anderson approaches a high end over-end kick. Jarvis Redwine at the 10. Look out, Redwine explodes across the 30 down at the 34. Paul Skansky on the tackle. Otherwise, Redwine was off toward the tunnel, and it was at the other end of the field. We've got a timeout. The Vikings lead is 3, 5:52 to go.
Have you driven a Ford and you don't know what you're missing? Have you driven a Ford what you're missing.
Have you driven the best-built American cars and trucks?
Have you driven a Ford? Driven a Ford lately?
A diamond, a miracle. Every diamond is rare, but a diamond of a carat or more is only one in a million. And like love, becomes more precious with time. The diamond solitaire, born from the earth, reborn on a woman. An extraordinary diamond of a carat or more. Show the world you couldn't have made it without her.
Losers of 3 straight, it is nail-biting time for that man, Bud Grant. Tough to play offense right now when you know the Steeler defense is teeing off on you. Big hole left side, though, and a good pickup of 6 yards for Ricky Young. Steve Riley and Jim Huff over on the left side, and they just simply blew off the ball and opened up a big hole.
And that little bit of counteraction, that little bit of misdirection is causing problems to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're getting yards. Today, Galbraith has already carried the ball 21 times for 85 yards. Dill's a good afternoon, 188 yards passing so far. He's going to have to put the ball up some.
5:23 left to go in regulation. Steelers want the football back. Vikings want to work on the clock and maybe add a score from the 40 of Minnesota. That's
play,
close to first down yardage for Ricky Young.
Excuse me, it was the same play to the other side. And it's getting yardage.
It was interesting in talking with Joe Sensor at the hotel. He said, we feel we can run on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense despite the fact they are ranked number 2 in the NFL against the rush. And he said our offensive linemen, they think they have a little something to show. They're playing for pride after last week's performance against the Green Bay Packers. And Sensor had a grin on his face. He looked like the cat that swallowed the canary. They looked like they knew something, didn't they? First and 10 from the 45. Vikings lead by 3. Galbraith, maybe 1. Johnny Goodman out of Oklahoma in his 3rd year. Hurled his 6'6", 250-pound frame.
But you got the sense there that the Pittsburgh Steelers were edging up to the line of scrimmage. They know that the Minnesota Vikings would like to use up their clock. There's only 4 minutes, 15 seconds left in this game. Pittsburgh trails by 3 points, but the Steelers are going to shut down that run and force the Vikings to throw the ball.
Well, you talk about the time left in the game that's in regulation because they've got the AFC's leading scorer, Gary Anderson, the place kicker out of Syracuse. 2nd and 9. Dills will go up top. He looks for Casper. Incomplete at the 37. Ricky Woods was back there in the coverage, and the Steelers came with a blitz. Hurling on through there. Mike Merriweather putting the pressure on Dills, who had to unload early to Casper.
It didn't work, but you like the idea.
Like the play call.
Definitely, because it loosens up the Pittsburgh Steelers. It shows you're not afraid to put the ball up. And believe me, you're going to have trouble running the ball against the Steelers at the moment. 3:49 left. Interesting call right now. 3rd and 10 for Steve Dills.
I would say so. Interesting defense also for the Steelers because you want to send them in and put some pressure on Dills and get them in the backfield, try to force some kind of a turnover, but you don't want to be victimized right now. Let's see if they play it straight or come with a blitz. Slot to the left side for the Vikings. They play it straight. Dills. He throws it away. The receiver turned it inside. It's picked off. Ricky Woods. Ricky Woods gets a block at the 30. Penalty flag is down at the 25. The Steelers will have the football, but the return will be negated probably by a clip. Look at Lambert out on the field. Lambert is screaming at the official at the 33-yard line. Lambert just ripped his helmet off, and he is not asking for the official's address to send him a Christmas card.
Steve Dills just threw that ball up for grabs. Yes, there was a lack of communication between receiver and quarterback. Still, he just laid it up into that zone, intercepted by Woods, the thing he did not want to happen.
Mike Jones, the rookie out of Tennessee State, turned it inside. Dills thought he was going outside, thus the apparent mistake, the interception. And from the 15-yard line, Jim Tunney will explain.
The run back, illegal push in the back, number 58, first down.
So we've got 3:36 left to go in regulation. The Steelers trail the Minnesota Vikings by 3 points. Take a look. Watch the receiver turn it inside. The ball goes outside.
Now, they didn't blitz because they feel they can get a rush on him without blitzing here. He just throws it up. You see it? It's intercepted by Woods. Pittsburgh will get a chance to tie or go ahead in this game.
You're gonna love it.
This car gets 4 coats of electrostatic paint, and lasers make sure the process runs smooth as silk. You're gonna love the finish.
Based on a survey of owner-reported problems during the first 3 months of use, Ford Motor Company is building the highest quality cars and trucks of any U.S. manufacturer.
You're gonna love the quality Ford. Quality is job one.
I love it.
A lot of good old boys around here know the best places to hunt and fish. Places that are hard to get to and get through and get around. That's why they got the original, the Honda ATC. The ATC will get you through water, it'll get you through swamp and mud. The fact is, the ATC works so good down here. There's a story going around that Mr. Honda used to live on the bayou. Everybody know he lived up by Shreveport.
Top-ranked and undefeated Nebraska looks unstoppable. Saturday, they play Big 8 rival Oklahoma, plus other regional games. NCAA football Saturday on CBS Sports.
Greg Hawthorne, Walter Abercrombie, Calvin Sweeney deployed along with Franco Harris, who's in the running back slot. Play action. Stout now chased out of the pocket, and a quick whistle. Tough call right there for Jim Tunney. Matt Blair had him. Stout got away. Fans don't like it.
You know the rule. It's grasp and control. Obviously, the official felt that. Take a look at it again. Matt Blair is on the blitz. Stout fakes, gets up. Blair is right there. Grabs him around the hips and the waist, spins him around. That's when the official called it. Of course, Stout at 6'4", 218, is a strong quarterback. Tough to bring down. The fans in Pittsburgh do not like it.
He might have been in the grasp, but I'm not sure he was in the control. He spun out of there pretty quickly.
That's a judgment call.
2nd and 17. Steelers are in trouble now. That was a big loss of 7 yards. Stout fires over the middle. Got to Calvin Sweeney, and he was bounced out of bounds. Clock continues to run, however. Willie Teal. Fans thought maybe the clock should have stopped. 2:49 and counting. Bud Grant wants that clock to run double time. The Vikings have lost 3 in a row. The Pittsburgh Steelers have their 3rd longest winning streak in the history of the franchise with 7 straight wins. Cunningham, slot to the right. Sweeney is outside of him. Hawthorne wide left. 2nd and 8 Pittsburgh. Stout in trouble. Fires. Got Cunningham. He's got the first down. He's trying to hang on to the football and carries it across the 30. Look at Stout waving the Steelers up in the hurry-up offense. Time remaining, 2:10 and counting.
He wants to use that 2-minute warning instead of one of his timeouts. He has 3 minutes remaining, 3 timeouts remaining. I don't know if he'll get the play off in time. He doesn't.
We've got 2 minutes left to go in regulation. The Steelers driving for what could be a tying field goal. 2 minutes left when we come back.
Hey, what'd I tell you? Bobby Allison's favorite.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Welcome to Miller Time. It's all yours, and it's all mine. Bring your thirsty self right here. The rich, smooth taste of Miller beer is what you have in mind. Welcome to Miller Time.
Welcome to the rich, smooth taste of Miller High Life.
You're looking at the unique aerodynamic design of the new 84 Ford Tempo. But come on in for the inside story. Tempo has more driver legroom than an Audi 5000. There's a clear view of the instrument cluster. Driver's controls and storage areas are fingertips away. And Tempo's interior actually has more rear room than the Mercedes 300D. The new Ford Tempo.
Pick up the tempo of your life.
Have you driven the best-built American cars? Have you driven a Ford lately?
Jim Kelly and John Dockery, welcome back to Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium. That's the situation. Time remaining. It has been a dandy. The Vikings, who've lost 3 in a row, led by as many as 10 points. The Steelers playing catch-up. Green Bay tied with the Minnesota Vikings for the top rung in that NFC Central, leading by a touchdown against Detroit late in their game. The Packers up by 7. Pittsburgh now looking at 1st and 10. They're trying to get down into Gary Anderson field goal range. They can't afford a turnover. Stout, all kinds of time, looks for Garrity, incomplete and almost intercepted. Hawthorne was the man who had turned around Willie Teal, and Teal almost came up with the underthrown ball.
The ball was underthrown. Willie Teal had help deep, and he almost came up with the interception. See, Carl Lee was trying to cover Hawthorne deep from Willie Teal, had the underneath coverage. He turned to run. He got one hand on the ball, but couldn't hold it. That would have been a turning point of the game right there. Willie Teal can't come up with a big play.
You know, Doc, Cliff Stout talks about his maturing and about the fact he's patient. Now is the time when he's got to demonstrate that patience and take what the Minnesota Vikings defense gives you. Not get greedy. You've got lots of time to get it down in field goal range. 2nd and 10. Stout batted down at the line of scrimmage, and it's deflected, and Calvin Sweeney came up with it. The ball was deflected by a Minnesota lineman. Sweeney kept his concentration. 1st down, Pittsburgh.
And something more and more teams are doing in the NFL. They're running plays, screen plays, pick plays. That time, Greg Hawthorne, number 27, ran a screen for number 85, Calvin Sweeney. And that's the completion. A little bit of luck there for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but nonetheless, 1st down.
Neil Elshire, 6'6", 260, got a hand on the football, and somehow Sweeney kept his concentration and came up with that big catch. 1st down for the Steelers from their own 45-yard line. 1:49 to go. Viking defense, nickel back, digs in. Stout, straight drop, in trouble. Penalty flag is down, and so is Cliff Stout. James White came crashing through. That flag in the vicinity of holding. Let's check Jim Tunney. Holding, Pittsburgh. Randy Holloway. Doug Martin came crashing in. Final in from Foxborough. The Cleveland Browns a 30-0 whitewash against the New England Patriots. So the Browns still very much alive in the AFC Central.
Holding 62, decline. 2nd down.
Steelers decline the penalty. Let's see if we can find it. They'll keep the down box moving. Detroit has just come back. How about that against the Green Bay Packers? So if the Vikings are scoreboard watching right now, they can see they've got a chance to pick up some ground. Right now, they are trying to dig in and hold Cliff Stout. 2nd and 19. It bounces to Benny Cunningham.
Tremendous pressure on Cliff Stout by Martin, Duck White, Randy Holloway. The Minnesota Viking defense is rising to the occasion now. We talked about them making the big plays. They came in with 34 sacks. Here they have 5 or 6 this afternoon.
Desperation time now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 3rd and 19. The way the game is going, you've got to figure, though, that Pittsburgh is really in a 4-down situation. They've got 2 plays to get 19 yards. You don't figure they're going to punt it away with 1:39 to go. Slot formation to the right side. Hawthorne wide left. Stout, here comes the Vikings. Stout, scrambling pocket. He can run for it. Comes back against the grain. Wide open. No! Incomplete. Stout couldn't get the ball. You can't get any more wide open. Why didn't he run?
Why didn't he run? He would have had a chance to pick up a lot of it, Jim, no doubt about it. But that time his arm betrayed him. Visions of Terry Bradshaw doing the same thing with that great arm, falling down, flicking the ball 30, 40, 50 yards. Stout doesn't have that kind of arm. Here he scrambles to get away from the rush.
Now right there is where he could have run for at least 15 yards.
But he saw Hawthorne was wide open, no one near him. Within 10, 15 yards of him, the ball is like a duck wobbling. Hawthorne trying to come back, can't get his arms underneath it, and hits the turf, so it's 4th and long.
The game hinges on this play. Nickel back. Now 6 defensive backs are in for the Minnesota Vikings. Pittsburgh takes a timeout. 4th and 19. It all comes down to one play. Well, we told you Cleveland has beaten New England 30-0. Miami has shut out Baltimore 37-0. So the Dolphins now go to 8-4 atop that AFC East, and in the AFC Central, the Cleveland Browns are 7-5. Doubleheader Sunday next week here on CBS. John and I will be in New Orleans to bring you the Vikings and Saints game. Washington plays host to Philadelphia. San Francisco travels to Chicago. Then on our doubleheader Sunday, the Green Bay Packers, right now knotted up 20-all against Detroit, will tangle with Atlanta, or the New York Giants, with a big win against Philadelphia today, will take on the Los Angeles Raiders. It's all next Sunday. CBS Sports, doubleheader Sunday, and it starts with Brent Musburger and the NFL Today.
And there there's the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mr. Art Rooney. And remember a couple of weeks ago when we were here against Tampa Bay, Art Rooney told us, you know, this team has been very lucky. We've had a relatively easy schedule. Well, today, the Minnesota Vikings are rising to the occasion, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the verge of losing for the first time in 8 games.
Garrity wide to the right side. Hawthorne and Sweeney ride left. Stout needs 19 yards and a first down, otherwise the Vikings win. Benny Cunningham, he drops the ball at the 33. Stout is on his knees. Chuck Noll has gone numb on the Pittsburgh sideline. Benny Cunningham had it and dropped it.
The stadium has gone quiet. Cunningham opened down the seam. Stout throws a pretty good ball. Cunningham had to turn around to try and catch it. It's wobbling a little bit, but it was certainly catchable. It would have been a first down. Steelers would have been right in field goal range.
Minnesota Vikings take over on downs. They have lost 3 in a row. They lost to St. Louis. They lost to Tampa Bay. They lost to Green Bay. We talked about St. Louis, the fact they're 4-1-1 in their last 6 games. CBS Sports has got the Cardinals and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Thursday. And, of course, Brent Irv, Phyllis the Greek, and the NFL Today will precede that. Right now, the Vikings will play ball control. Ricky Young with both arms wrapped around it. 1:20 left to go. The Steelers have 2 timeouts. Now they have 1. Coming up after the game, Brent, Irv, Jimmy, all the scores and highlights from around the NFL today. And there have been some big scores. Cleveland shutting out New England. Miami shutting out Baltimore. And what a job the Cardinals have done today. 2 touchdowns on the ground the last time we had heard by Neil Lomax, and 2 by passing. And they had a 44-7 lead.
And next on Thanksgiving Turkey Day, St. Louis Cardinals versus the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, the Cardinals hot, winners of 4 of their last 6 outings. They're 4-1-1, and they have some weapons. What about O.J. Anderson, their fine running back, one of the top rushers in the NFC?
How about Roy Green, who caught 4 touchdown passes in the first half last week?
A converted defensive back, but you can't sell Dallas short. Of course, they're hot. They're one of the best records in the NFL at the moment.
That game, of course, will be on Thursday, the Cowboys and the Cardinals. And it's a football feast. We'll follow that. Tell you about our college game on Friday. 1:19, 1 timeout for the Steelers. Defense will come crashing through. Bills to Ricky Young. Hammered down. That is David Little, 3rd year out of Florida. And the Steelers have taken their last timeout. Time remaining. So the Vikings looking now at 3rd and 8. But Pittsburgh cannot stop the clock. They trail by 3. Pittsburgh might get the ball back one more time.
But they'll get it back with no timeouts left, even if they do get it back, Jim. And for the Minnesota Vikings, possibly the turning point of the season. It's really been 2 seasons up until now. They were 6-2. They had that nice cushion. They had a 2-game lead in the NFC Central. Then they lose 3 in a row, and now they're on the verge of victory here, which keeps them in at least a tie in the NFC Central.
The NFL on CBS. The executive producer is Terry O'Neill. The senior producer, Charles H. Milton III. Today's game produced by David Michaels and directed by Bob Degas. The rest of the folks who bring you the sights and sounds of NFL football here on CBS. Our statisticians, George Jordan and John Rooney, and our spotter, Billy Werndell. From the 32, it's 3rd and 6. Vikings lead by 3. Pittsburgh wants the ball, but they're out of timeouts. Ricky Young explodes for a first down for the Minnesota Vikings. That offensive line taking command of Riley, Huff, Hamilton, Irwin, and Dennis Swilley. And the final nail has just gone into the Steeler coffin.
And there's Bud Grant taking his headset off. It must be a sign of victory. And you have to give this man a lot of credit. His team was down. They've had injuries. Darren Nelson didn't play at all. He had them ready. In fairness to Chuck Noll and the Steelers, they were due for a down day after 7 straight victories. And they do have a cushion in their division. They were up by 3 games going into today's
Well,
contest.
Bud Grant told us last night at the hotel, we asked him how you prepare a team that's lost 3 games in a row and came off the dismal effort against Green Bay. He said you can't dwell on what is past. You can't change that. You try to put it behind you. And the players we talked to said we indeed had a good week of practice getting ready. It was very spirited, very upbeat. So the Vikings come away with a 3-point win, and they now have ended their 3-game losing streak, also ended the 7-game win streak of the Steelers. Pittsburgh wins about 80% of their games here. Their record is 88-21 at Three Rivers, but not today. Minnesota upsets Pittsburgh by 3, 17-14. A big win for Bud Grant and the Minnesota Vikings as they stay atop that NFC Central Division. They now up their record to 7-5, and we'll be doing a little scoreboard watching to find out how Green Bay and Detroit are doing. They're all knotted up 20-all. In case you wonder, we'll have a post-game show with Brent Irv, Jimmy the Greek, and all the scores and highlights, and they'll update that game for you. In the meantime, you take a look at that AFC Central. The Pittsburgh Steelers still lead. They will have now a 2-game lead over the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers fall to 9-3. Cleveland, with a big win at Foxborough, ups their record to 7-5. Don't forget, the NFL Today continues. The post-game wrap-up show. Brent Irv, Jimmy the Greek, scores and highlights coming up next. And then on Thanksgiving Day, we've got the St. Louis Cardinals, who have gone 4-1-1 over their last 6 games. They won big today. The Cowboys, they're in action later on. It'll be a big one on Thanksgiving Day. We've got a football feast. And we've got more football coming up here on CBS Sports. So for John Dockery, this is Jim Kelly saying so long from Pittsburgh, where the Vikings beat the Steelers 17-14.
Museums are special places. They're really storehouses for all the knowledge man has collected. But they don't tell us much about what we haven't learned. Some children have an eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa. Thousands of other people have RP and don't even know it. Night blindness and tunnel vision are often the symptoms. Total loss of sight is often the result. There's no known cure for RP, but there is hope. Thanks to RP Foundation Fighting Blindness, researchers are looking for answers to the cause, prevention, and treatment of RP, and self-help groups and referral services are operating around the country, all supported by RP Foundation Fighting Blindness. Hopefully, someday children won't have to fit a lifetime of seeing into a few short years. For more information, call RP Foundation Fighting Blindness at 800-638-5682. They're working toward the day RP won't leave anyone in the dark.
When I first bought this ranch, I could work it with 1 horse. The place has grown a little since then. And along the way, I learned something. If you sell a man good steers at a fair price, you're going to do okay. The people who make Meister Brau beer must have gone to the same school I did. They got a beer here that tastes just as good as Budweiser. They sure do. It just doesn't cost as much. It sure don't. I got a hunch. Those boys are going to do okay, too.
Introducing Meister Brau. Tastes as good as Budweiser at a better price.
My dandruff shampoo is good.
Maybe you should try something else. My dandruff shampoo really works.
Maybe you should try something else, like Selsun Blue. Doctors and pharmacists recommend Selsun Blue more than all other leading brands combined. It's #1. What that means to you is no leading brand gets rid of dandruff better than Selsun Blue. Ask your doctor or pharmacist, or try it yourself. That's all the proof you'll need. Selsun Blue. It's #1.
Jim Kelly and John Dockery, welcome back to Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium. There's our final score. It began with the Pittsburgh Steelers on their very first possession, punching it on in for a score. They led 7-0. Then the Vikings came back to tie it up 7-all. Dills threw his second touchdown toss. A field goal by Ricardo turned out to be the difference. Now let's go to New York. Brent?
Pittsburgh with Jimmy the Greek and Irv Cross, and let's take you right to the scoreboard and get you up to date with what has gone on this afternoon. Another wild and woolly afternoon. Just when you think you understand this league, another Sunday comes. The Giants slam the Eagles 23-0. And, of course, the Giants were the underdog in that game on the road, but they have beaten them again. Many of you watched that game. And, Irv, take a look at the highlights.
Eagle cheerleaders had very little to cheer about, Brent, and this is why. Ron Jaworski, going back to pass in the first quarter, sacked by Lawrence Taylor. Giant defense wasn't finished yet, though. Jaworski again going up top. Ball's picked off. by Mark Haynes, his third interception of the season, scrambling along his left sideline, setting up a scoring opportunity later in the game for his ball club. And, of course, Coach Parcells has to be happy with that because look what happens. Number 25, Butch Woolfolk, skirts around his right end for an 11-yard touchdown run, and the Giants seem to have things well under control because of this, plays like this. Harry Carson sacking Joe Pisarcik, who replaced Jaworski, and then later in the game, Scott Brunner hands the ball off to John Tuggle. Remember the last man drafted? First scoring touchdown of the year for him.
All right, the St. Louis Cardinals now, in their last 6 games, they have won 4, tied 1, and lost 1. And they play the Dallas Cowboys here on CBS, and that, of course, Thursday afternoon. The Cardinals now, ever since Neil Lomax returned off the injured list, have been one of the toughest teams in the NFL. The Chargers, of course, are going in the opposite direction, except for that upset of the Dallas Cowboys last week. Cincinnati hammers Houston again. 38-10 was the final score in that game. Chicago and Tampa Bay. Chicago shuts out the Buccaneers in that monsoon down in Tampa, 27-0, Irv.
Chicago Bears love this kind of weather, I guess, Brent. You know, why, I don't know. But Jim McMahon, opening the game early, looks like Willie Gault has this, right? No, wet ball, dropped the ball, incomplete. But Walter Payton does his thing, whether the field is dry or not. Here, breaking off his left guard for a touchdown. On that run, Brent, he broke through 1,000 yards rushing. Look at that weather. Can you imagine that? Later, Walter Payton does it again. Inside the 5, his second touchdown of the game, going in for another Chicago score. And John McKay's fans are really sort of down on the dumps. Here's a great defensive play. Ball knocked out of the quarterback's hand. Hartenstein recovering, rambling into the end zone for the touchdown. And, of course, the Bears had everything going for them on both sides of the ball, Brett.
And the Buccaneers now 1-11. The Bears' record is 5-7 on the year. The Miami Dolphins, 37. The Baltimore Colts, nothing. If it rained that hard in Tampa, what was the weather like in Miami? Well, they were bothered by rain, too. It hit later in that game, however. Watch Marino. Here's the youngster, Mark Duper, on the receiving end. You won't see a better thrown ball than this one in the whole league all season. I mean, he hit him right now on the letters, and Duper high steps it on into the end zone. And Miami led at the time 17-0 over Frank Kush. Now, watch the punt. Clayton picks it up at his own 40, makes a beautiful cut, gets free, and it's a 60-yard Dolphin return for a touchdown that put the Dolphins ahead of Baltimore by 24 points. Now, the Colts tried a new quarterback today, Mark Herman out of Purdue. And he did not have much luck moving the ball against that Bill Arnsberger coach defense. And the final score again was 37-0, Miami over Baltimore. Cleveland shuts down on New England, another shutout. And the Brown defense was simply savage, especially Chip Banks, who intercepted a Steve Grogan pass and ran it in. Irv?
The Brown defense really came alive today, Brent. Here's a great example of it. Steve Grogan going back to pass is hit as he released the ball, but it's picked off here. And 65 yards later, Chip Banks rambles into the end zone. Brian Sipe had a pretty good day, too, throwing the ball both long and short. This time he elects to go to number 88, Rocky Belt, for a short touchdown pass over the middle, and the Browns took an early 17-0 lead. Grogan trying to get his club back on track has his ball deflected. Another interception. Tom Cousineau, $1 million linebacker, from Canada. There he goes, scrambling inside the 15-yard line, setting up a scoring opportunity for his club. And there goes Grogan, who was dinged a little bit during the course of the game, had to be taken out.
All right. Now, of course, the thing we overlook about the Cleveland Browns is the factor that they are very much in playoff contention. With that win today, they pushed their record to 7-5. So they are certainly in the chase now for a wild card spot in the AFC. We'll come back, and the NFL Today will continue on CBS in just a moment.
If you're a smoker, inside this little can is a legitimate alternative. Introducing Skoal Bandits, an individual portion of wintergreen flavored tobacco in a neat, pre-moistened pouch. What you do is put one between your lip and gum. What you get is great tobacco taste without lighting up, and you can enjoy it wherever you are. If you're a smoker, try new Skoal Bandits. 20 pouches to a can. Take a pouch instead of a puff.
Listen to these stuffy noses.
Afrin does it have it.
Dristan doesn't have it.
Only Sinex has it.
Ooh.
That quick feeling of relief from instantly penetrating Vicks vapors, plus a powerful decongestant that opens nasal passages and allows you to breathe freely.
Ah, complete relief.
For hours and hours, Sinex gives you both instant relief
Ooh.
and complete relief.
Ah.
Vicks Sinex in regular strength and 12-hour extra strength.
If you plan to spend $20,000 to get a high-performance German-engineered sedan, try this. Buy this German-engineered, German-built Volkswagen Jetta for only $7,390. And with the $12,000 that's left over, you can also buy this. The 1984 Volkswagen Jetta. It makes your money go a lot further. Jetta. It's not a car. It's a Volkswagen.
Me and my brother started with one truck. He drove nights, I drove days. I'll tell you one thing we learned. You give a customer good service at a fair price, they'll stick with you. People who make Meisterbrau beer must have learned the same thing. When I first tasted Meisterbrau, I thought it tastes just as good as Budweiser. When I found out how much it cost, I thought it tasted even better.
Gentlemen, the bar is open.
Introducing Meisterbrau. Tastes as good as Budweiser at a better price.
All right, welcome back. Those of you who are watching the Chicago game, we're down in Tampa. You're joining up with a couple of other networks now. We have everybody up to date on most of the scores, but we have one game working that could be headed for overtime. Let me give you the situation, and Irv and I will go through the highlights for you on this. There is about 30 seconds to go. Green Bay has the ball. They have lost Lynn Dickey because of an injury. David Whitehurst is now at quarterback. But before Dickey left the game, he was at his devastating best. Here he is, pumping one to J.J., John Jefferson. That was his first touchdown pass of the day. Now, Detroit's kicking game had all kinds of trouble this afternoon in Milwaukee. For the second time, Michael Black could not handle the snap. And this time when he did, Lachlan picked it off for the Packers and got back to the 8-yard line. 3 plays later, it is Dickey again. And this time, he'll go to his tight end. And he's got Kaufman for the touchdown. 26 touchdown passes for the year. But then Detroit started to rally. Hipple on the keeper, going for the corner of the end zone. Takes a shot and gets in. That made it 20-10. Hipple then dropping back, went to Freddie Scott in the right corner and tied the game. But again, Irv, they are playing without Dickey. David Whitehurst is the quarterback. You are looking at a live shot right now. The Lions have the ball. A 1st and 10 back on their own 21-yard line. Now we'll stick with this action right here and see what they can do. Remember, they're tied at 20, Irv. And, of course, they would head into overtime. The Packers must win to stay up with Minnesota in the NFC Central. The Vikings record 7-5. And the Lions are going to run the clock out and go to overtime. Irv, you go along with that strategy?
You know, when I coached, we always felt that if there's a tick on the clock, we want to go for it. You know, even late in the game like this, you have the ball. Why not take a chance on trying to go for the score? Detroit obviously elected to go for the overtime.
Jimmy, what do you think about strategy like that on the part of Coach Monty Clark, simply going for the overtime with 8 seconds to go?
If you got a chance to win it, why go into overtime? You throw a bomb at least. I mean, the other side, what can they do? It's just like a punt.
All right.
You might catch it and kick a field goal.
Jimmy, we have some other scores. I'm going to call you back in here in a moment. But this Raiders score, the Raiders were ahead of the Bills 24-3. Jimmy, you've been watching this game closer than I have. What in the world happened?
3 fumbles. What more can I say? Allen fumbled over the goal line. He fumbled inside the 10-yard line. Then they fumbled on the kickoff and gave Buffalo 21 points.
About how much time left?
21 seconds, and the Raiders have brought the ball down to the 20-yard line.
That's bar range.
Yeah.
So they got a chance to win it in regulation. But again, it is tied at 24 in the 4th quarter. And, of course, some of these other scores, you probably know. The Vikes beat the Steelers 17-14, a major upset there. Some games, of course, are underway. We can take a quick look. But first, let's check in on Minnesota-Pittsburgh highlights, Irv.
Pittsburgh had things going for them well in the first quarter. Brent, here, Cliff Scout hit Benny Cunningham on their initial drive, went all the way and scored. But the Vikings came right back the first time they touched the ball. And Steve Dills, this time rolling to his right, finds Sam McCollum in the end zone. And they tie the score 7-7. Dills wasn't finished yet, though. This time, he goes to his left. The ball's picked off by Mel Blount. That great defense we talked about all day long still exists. But the Vikings were a persistent team today. Bill's improvising, scrabbling to his right, wants to hit Galvin at the end zone and finds him for a touchdown score. The Vikings at this point took charge. The Steeler offense tried to get back in the ball game with Stout improvising himself. Can't find a receiver, ran in himself to the end zone, and of course, too little, too late. Vikings wound up winning it.
Irv, two developments now. First, the Green Bay Packers won the coin flip, so Detroit will be kicking off when they start overtime. 3 seconds to go in the Raider game, and Barr will attempt a field goal that could win it. Now, that was the final score there of the Viking and the Steelers. Now, some other scores, games that have just gotten underway. The 49ers and the Falcons, they are tied. They are scoreless. Denver has kicked a field goal on Seattle. Now the Denver update. They lead Seattle right now, 3-0. Kansas City and Dallas, the Cowboys get on the board in that game. So the Cowboys lead there by 7 points. And the big one, of course, Washington and the Rams, they are scoreless now, and they are in the first quarter. So we'll get everything up to date back here in New York, tell you how the overtime and how the Raiders made out. But right now, let's send you back to Pittsburgh. And here is Jim Kelly. Jim?
Thank you, Brent. There again is our final. The Vikings, who had lost 3 in a row, on top by a field goal over the Steelers, who had won 7 straight. We are back at Three Rivers Stadium. I'm Jim Kelly, former New York Jet, former Pittsburgh Steeler, John Dockery alongside. And down on the sidelines is a very happy Steve Dills right now after his Vikings ended that 3-game losing streak. Steve, all the players we talked to said you had a real good week of preparation. The team wasn't down despite the fact you had lost those 3 straight games.
There's no doubt about that. I think that we were a little frustrated at the point after losing to Green Bay. We came back well in the second half, couldn't quite do the job. I think that we still believe in ourselves, and I think that showed today against an excellent Pittsburgh team.
Steve, I have to ask you a question. How in the world did you believe that you could run the ball without Darren Nelson, without Teddy Brown, against one of the best defenses against the rush in the NFL?
That makes it a little tough with Darren out and Teddy Brown. I think more than anything, our line took it upon themselves, and they give you some angles to block, and we had hoped to do that. We hoped to run in passing situations. I think we're able to do that and control the ball and keep it away from their offense, not give them good field position in the second half.
Steve, how about the losing streak now that it's out of the way? Kind of better to get it out at that point of the season than down the home stretch as you try to get ready for the playoffs?
You bet. I think coaches talk about a plateau point in the season. I guess we were at the bottom in the middle of the season. Hopefully we'll come back strong and win the last 4 games from here on in, 5 count in this one, and get in the playoffs and do well.
Steve, your offensive line, really the story of the day, holding off a great Pittsburgh Steeler defense. You were not sacked once all day. Last week against the Green Bay Packers, you were sacked a whole bunch of times.
Well, yeah, everybody has bad games. We just happened to have a bad game by the entire offensive line last week, but this week they played exceptionally well, just like they've been playing most of the season. I think I take them out for ribs every time I don't get sacked. I think they were missing their ribs a little bit.
Steve, we've had you a couple times this year, and I know when you took over for Tommy Kramer, you said you don't possess the awesome physical talent of a Tommy Kramer. You try to do it with intelligence, you try to do it with finesse, and you really viewed this, you and your wife, Suzanne, as a chance to show just how good you could be, that you spent all the time learning on the sideline. How good now over the last 9 games has Steve Dills matured?
Steve Dills is getting a lot better. He's not making the big mistakes he made early on, but he's still got a ways to go. Half a season or 3/4 of a season does not make a quarterback, so I feel that I've got a lot left to learn, but we're playing well, and hopefully we'll go on and win all the rest from here.
Okay, Steve Dills, congratulations. A 17-14 win for the Vikings. We'll see you next week. We've got your game in New Orleans right now. Let's go to Jack Buck at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Things are quiet here at the Vet, and the Giants won it by the score of 23-0. Butch Woolfolk, after a busy day, was kind enough to come back out, and we talked it over with the record-setting Giant back. Well, what a day Butch Woolfolk had. Butch, Hank Stram, and Jack Buck up here, and congratulations on a wonderful afternoon.
Well, thank you.
43 rushes, and I imagine you knew that you were setting the record from the activity that went on at the tail end of the game.
Well, I was told by Coach Parcells that I needed, I think, 3 or 4 to break the record, and he told me, he said, I don't know if I'm going to put you in there. If you get hurt on these 3 or 4 carries, I'd kill myself. I told him,
Butch, did you think going into the game that you were going to be able to run that many times? I know the plan was to run the ball, but did you think you'd run that much?
I never thought I'd run that much. Prior to this game, in my entire year, my first and second year as a pro, most carries I've had was 19.
You know,
so this is a big surprise to me.
You know, the other thing, Butch, is you got to be happy about running from that one-back system. You're the only guy back there, the only guy that can run the ball, and that must be a lot of fun.
Well, now I see what Rob Carpenter goes through. This is some tough yardage. I don't know if I can do this again, but I'll try.
Well, Butch also said he wanted to rush back in and thank the offensive linemen for the job they did. And Hank Stram, you think the Eagles made a mistake when they failed to put Jaworski back in?
Well, I think that's always a very touchy situation when your number one quarterback is taken out of the game. He was 1 for 9, I think, right, before he was taken out of the game. And I think that a great quarterback like him is going to have maybe a bad quarter or maybe even 2, but I don't think they'll ever have 4 bad quarters. And for that reason, I thought maybe they would bring him back in the game in the second half.
But you can't detract from the Giant victory. It was a good one as we rejoin Brent Musburger in New York.
Thank you, Jack. It was especially sweet for Jimmy the Greek, who called it, and I couldn't believe it. We got another final. The Raiders, if a cat has 9 lives, the Raiders have got 10, folks. Unbelievable. They took the kickoff, marched down. Here he is, Chris Barr. You know what he's going to do with no time on the clock. He always does it for the Raiders. And they win it 27-24, and now they've got a record of 9-3, tied with the Steelers for the best mark in the AFC. And the NFL Today continues on CBS in just a moment.
It'll never work.
We're testing whether Tegrin shampoo can keep baseball star Jim Palmer's dandruff under control for 3 days. Tegrin Shake, day 1.
Looking good, so far.
Tegrin Shake, day 2.
Tegrin's still working, but the game's not over.
Yeah. Tegrin Shake, day 3.
Incredible. Tegrin did it.
All right, yeah, it works,
From now on, I'm trusting Tegrin.
Try Tegrin. It works on dandruff.
Really works.
Between shampoos.
When I was looking for a small computer, I went to IBM because they know what a small, big company needs. I wanted data, word processing, and some word data processing. And they showed me a small computer to fit our budget. IBM even had a place to learn how to use it. That impressed us. And my good business sense even impressed my girlfriend, Charlotte.
IBM.
First, someone gets an idea. Then someone else may look at it differently. Even add a thought or two. Technology from a company called TRW helps ideas get around. Because getting an idea from one place to another is as important as getting an idea. Tomorrow is taking shape at a company called TRW.
Boxing, soccer, basketball, baseball, football, watch them all. With Rose in hand, you'll have a ball. 'Cause there's no taste like the Rose. Irish Rose, no taste like the Rose. There's no taste like it. Everybody knows there's no taste like the Rose. Wild Irish Rose wine.
Well, in that overtime game, Detroit and Green Bay, the Packers couldn't move, punt. Detroit's got the ball. Now, Minnesota today upset the Pittsburgh Steelers 17-14. Cliff Stoughton did not have a very good game, which leads me back to an earlier story on the NFL Today, when Terry Bradshaw revealed that he would not play again for the Steelers this year.
I don't think I'll play this year. If I could just come back and be in some role in case something happened to Cliff or Mark, then that would be the only way I would play is if those two were injured. But as far as me playing, no.
Now, Stout today was 13 of 30 with 1 touchdown pass for the Steelers, and the general belief is that when the Steelers get into the playoffs and the pressure-packed games, they are indeed going to miss Terry Bradshaw. As you have undoubtedly noticed, this has been a savage year on quarterbacks around the National Football League. One after another has fallen because of an assortment of injuries, and that includes durable quarterbacks around the league, such as Dan Fouts, rotator cuff. He's not played since that injury. And, of course, one of the first major casualties was Tommy Kramer. September 18th in Tampa, hit hard. Torn ligaments in the knee puts him out for the season. And the Vikes have hurt without him until today. 2 weeks ago, the Kansas City Chiefs were all over Mark Wilson of the Raiders. And now he is out with a fractured shoulder. And that same day, Steve DeBerg of the Broncos suffered the same fate, shoulder separation. That loss very tough because it meant that John Elway had to return. Then earlier today, Joe Ferguson slammed to the turf in Buffalo by the Raiders, and he was knocked out of the remainder of that game because of a concussion. Now, in college football, there is still the drama surrounding Notre Dame. Will they or won't they go to the Liberty Bowl? The Irish had a team meeting earlier today, at which time all of the players voted. The Liberty Bowl apparently still holding out hope for Notre Dame to take on Boston College. Arizona State are waiting in the wings, however, if the Irish decide not to go, and Arizona State could replace them as an opponent. But so far, there has been no revelation about how the Notre Dame team voted. Now, Detroit and Green Bay in overtime, tied at 20 right now in Milwaukee's County Stadium. This is a live picture, and you can see that there is a timeout, but Eddie Murray has a chance now to kick the winning field goal here for the Lions, and the timeout, Irv, is always called to put pressure on the kicker.
I don't really think it really works in pro football, Brent. The kickers know the job they have to do, and he's ready to kick. He's been warming up along the sidelines, anticipating his position on the field. You can see the ball is around the 15-yard line. He'll settle down about 7 yards behind that, so you're talking about a 22-yard kick there and 10 more yards in the end zone. A 32-yard field goal for Murray is a fairly easy kick.
And an enormously important field goal as far as the Lions are concerned. If they kick it, it moves them to 6-6, or one game behind the Minnesota Vikings. And it will drop Green Bay to 6-6. The Chicago Bears, with their win over Tampa, of course, 5-7. So it keeps them at least in the chase for a possible championship. And we have to emphasize possible because there's only 4 games left. So Hipple will hold, and Murray now will attempt the field goal that could give the Lions the win in overtime. He hooks it a bit to the left. He hooked that one, no good.
Wide left.
So it goes wide to the left.
He thought it was good.
And overtime will continue in Milwaukee's County Stadium. And, of course, you'll have to consult your favorite evening news telecast to get the final result. We're out of time, but I want to remind everybody we got a big one coming up for you on Thanksgiving. St. Louis, 4-1-1 in their last 6 games, takes on the Dallas Cowboys. And don't forget the time, 3:30. Maybe you can catch Thanksgiving dinner a little bit early and tune in 3:30. We'll bring you the St. Louis Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys. I'm Brent Musburger for Irv Cross and Jimmy the Greek. So long, everybody.
Now United flies to Tokyo from more top U.S. business centers. United's 3-class international service to Tokyo. It's truly world-class.
He's the richest man in town, Eastern Pennsylvania's leading citizen. On the side, he's the heavyweight champion of the world. 60 Minutes this evening on CBS.